Chapter 2270. A few days later. Xia Ping was still staying in the Yan Huang Peak of the Holy Land of Taichu. After a few days of seclusion, he had completely consolidated his late-stage sempiternal realm cultivation and integrated all his powers. I'm afraid I'll have to go to the mystic zone next. At this time he opened his eyes, which were shining with a glimmer of light. As a sage, only by going to the mystic zone could one grow at the fastest speed, because there were a lot of treasures suitable for the growth of sages in that place, but there were not many in other universes. Therefore, if a sage stayed in other universes, their growth would be very slow. Sometimes, there would be no change even after hundreds of millions of years. However, it had to be said that the mystic zone was also extremely dangerous. It was a place where tens of thousands of races competed for hegemony. Not to mention the immortal sages, even the sages of the ancient era and the medieval era died in large numbers in that place, as if they were completely worthless. It was a complete meat grinder for sages. But before going to the mystic zone, I'd better try my best to improve myself and prepare some life-saving treasures. After thinking about it, Xia Ping decided to log into the internal network of the Holy Land of Taichu. He had obtained tens of millions of points before, which could be exchanged for a large number of treasures in the Holy Land of Taichu. There was no reason for him to save them now. The so-called points were only meaningful when they were spent. With a beep, he immediately logged into the internal network of the Holy Land of Taichu. Immediately he found that after becoming an immortal sage and joining the All Saints Palace, his authority had been greatly improved. In the past, he was restricted from exchanging for items and was not allowed to read the internal information. This was the great benefit of being an immortal sage. There are so many treasures. Xia Ping looked at the exchange list and immediately drooled. These treasures were collected by the human race from all over the universe. Even if you had the money, you might not be able to buy them in the outside world. In just one page he saw many treasures that tempted him. However, he still suppressed his desire to exchange for treasures. Although 10 million points seemed to be a lot, it would only take him a few minutes to spend them. His current net worth was still far from that. Master, I think the first treasure to exchange for is the refining material that can improve your natal magic treasure, the Bell of Chaos. At this moment, the Green Ox gave his opinion. In the Saint Realm, the most important treasure is actually a treasure that can withstand soul attacks. Physical defense is secondary. The Bell of Chaos is already a low-quality saint artifact, yet it possesses great defensive power against soul attacks. It's a powerful treasure with great potential. I think Master should increase its power. It felt that the potential of the Bell of Chaos was endless. Hearing those words, Xia Ping nodded in agreement. That was indeed the case. After reaching the sempiternal realm, every sage would possess an indestructible body, making it very difficult for them to be killed by other sages. If it were not for the fact that he had a powerful magic treasure that could directly destroy the soul of a sage, he would not have been able to kill a sage of the same level. After all, even if a sage of the same level could not defeat him, he could still escape. Therefore, sages at this stage were extremely eager to obtain a magic treasure that could defend against soul attacks. As long as they could find such a magic treasure, it would be even more difficult for them to be killed. Once they reached this realm, all the sages would learn to hide. Only by living for a long time would they have the chance to advance to a higher realm. They would not be killed the moment they left their seclusion. No. At that moment, Corinne also jumped out. The Bell of Chaos is indeed not bad, but Master has already obtained a large number of sound rune stones and other refinement materials from the illusion race's treasury. It's more than enough for you to increase it during this period. In my opinion, the most important thing now is to exchange for a large number of treasures and increase the star's power. One had to know that the mystic zone was vast and boundless. No one knew just how big it was. Moreover, it was very difficult to perform spatial jumps in the mystic zone. The distance between cities exceeded hundreds of millions of light years, or even billions of light years. The distance was so huge that it was terrifying. If the star's power did not increase and speed did not increase, just rushing through the mystic zone would take a lot of time. Moreover, it would be very easy for them to be chased by other fast sages. Moreover, the stars was not as simple as a spaceship. Its current main body was the constellation vine, an immortal rank plant. If it continued to grow, it would become extremely powerful. Ordinary sages would not be a match for the constellation vine at all. Not only could it kill enemies, but it could also easily trap enemies. It was killing two birds with one stone. As for the Bell of Chaos, although it's indeed not bad, I think it's not too late to increase it later. There's no need to waste resources at this time. It also expressed its opinion. Bullshit. Seeing this archenemy jump out to oppose him, Green Ox was furious. What's a small spaceship? It's our first time in the Mystic Zone. Why would we need to go too far? Of course, it's enough to just wander around near the human encampment. We don't need spaceships for the time being. If we really need it, can't we find other sages' spaceships to help us? On the other hand, the Bell of Chaos is different. Who knows what kind of battle will happen? Of course, it's better to refine defensive treasures. Only then can we improve our life-saving abilities. That's the most important thing. Damn Ox, what do you know? Corinne said disdainfully. What do you mean wander around near the human encampment? If we want to find treasures, of course we have to stay far away from the human encampment. We have to go to the outskirts. Such places have long been ransacked by the human sages. There are no treasures left. Only by going to some remote and extremely dangerous wilderness will we have a chance to find treasures useful to the sages. At that time we need the help of spaceships. You can also say that you can stay in the human encampment, but you've already come to the Mystic Zone. If you want to be safe, you might as well stay in the Holy Land of Taichu. Why take the risk? You still have the nerve to say that you need to find other sages for help. What a joke. You're not familiar with the people in the Mystic Zone. Why would they help you? If they really help you if you find treasures, shouldn't you give them a share? Don't you know how troublesome it is without your own spaceship? Moreover, Xiaoping has many secrets. We can't let outsiders know and leak them. You? Stinky cat, you just want to go against me, don't you? Black Ox was driven mad and wanted to tear Corinne to pieces. Go against me then. Bite me if you can. Corinne said disdainfully. Okay. Xiaoping was speechless. He restrained the two old men. Otherwise they would really fight. He said, you two calculate how many points are needed to upgrade the Bell of Chaos and the stars. See if we have enough points now. If it's not enough, it's not too late to think of another way. No problem. Corinne and Green Ox said in unison. They did not back down at all and stood in sharp opposition. Chapter 2271. An hour later, Green Ox and Corinne carefully calculated and looked at the exchange list. After a strict review, they finally came to a conclusion. To improve the power of the Bell of Chaos, you need a large number of sound stones. Master already has a lot, so there's no need to exchange for now. Green Ox said in a deep voice. In addition, you also need some rare universe-level materials such as 9th Heaven Cold Iron, 100 million year copper essence, Star Stone, etc., to increase the toughness and physical defense of the Bell of Chaos. You also need Radiant Moon Soul Stone, Earthly Soul Stone, etc. These two strange ores can resist the power of soul attacks and greatly weaken the enemy soul attack power. And if you exchange all the above universe ores, and mix the ratio and quantity, I carefully calculated that you will need about 3 million points. He listed the cost of materials to improve the Bell of Chaos. As for improving the power of stars, it needs to exchange for 10 portions of Water of Life, a special water type or 10,000 layers soft crystal, a portion of Milky Way cinnabar, etc., as well as a variety of refining materials. Corinne also revealed his plan to improve stars. And if you exchange all these materials from the Holy Land of Taichu, you will need about 8 million points. In that case, a total of 1 million points is just enough. There's no need to argue. Xiaoping was very satisfied. As expected, it was right to cheat the disciples of the Holy Land of Taichu and the Palace of Darkness. Otherwise, he did not know where he could get so many points. Moreover, some special universe materials could not be bought with money, and his Pearl of Mountains and Rivers did not have them. Green Ox and Corinne glared at each other, but they did not say anything. Since they had enough points, there was no need to argue. The two things could be carried out simultaneously. In the blink of an eye, another 3 months passed. Within these 3 months, Xiaoping used his points to exchange for a large number of treasures to refine stars and Bell of Chaos. The Holy Land of Taichu was very efficient. Often, these treasures would be delivered the next day as soon as the order was placed. They did not need to waste too much time in between. Boom. First was the Bell of Chaos. At this moment, it had been upgraded to a mid-grade sacred artifact. It had been integrated with a large number of sound stones, 9 Heaven Cold Iron, 100 million year copper essence, Star Stone, and other rare materials, which had greatly improved its quality. Most importantly, its main material, the chaotic scarlet iron, had further refined its power. The entire Bell of Chaos was filled with dense chaotic chi. It was as if many mysterious restriction arrays had appeared inside the Bell of Chaos. These restriction arrays were densely packed and combined together, forming nomological patterns. It could be said that now that the Bell of Chaos had reached the peak of medium-quality Saint Artifact, its attacks were more than 10 times more powerful than before. Regular high-quality Saint Artifacts were no match for it. Furthermore, this attack was targeted at the soul. This was definitely a great weapon that could be used against sages. At the same time, its defensive power was also enhanced. As long as Xiaoping's soul merged with the Bell of Chaos, the enemy's soul attack power would be weakened by more than 50%. That was 50%. Even an ordinary high-grade soul defense sacred weapon would not be able to do this. The soul attack power of an ordinary sage would be weakened by 50%. Coupled with the soul defense magic power that he had cultivated, there were probably only a few that could truly reach his body. The reason why it possessed such a powerful soul defense was because of the chaotic scarlet iron. It contained a powerful chaotic aura, which was enough to isolate most of the power's corrosion. Secondly, there was the effect of the sound pattern stone. It contained the power of the laws of sound patterns. Sometimes an attack was also a defense. It possessed the power of soul attacks, causing the void to tremble. This way it would also cancel out the enemy's soul attack power. If the Bell of Chaos advanced to a high-quality Saint Artifact, its defense would probably increase explosively again and weaken by more than 70%. If it could advance to a Supreme Saint Artifact, it would probably weaken by 90%. This was the powerful treasure that could make the Bell of Chaos invincible. This was also the Bell of Chaos' endless potential. The Bell of Chaos is too powerful. The Green Ox was satisfied. He felt that this treasure was his greatest masterpiece. If his master, the Mountain River Saint, had had such a soul defense treasure back then, he probably would not have died in the Primordial War. However, he also knew that this was wishful thinking. After all, he did not know where to find the chaotic scarlet iron. Sometimes it was extremely difficult to find a suitable soul defense Saint Artifact. Could not be bought even with money. The stars have also advanced to the level of a mid-quality Saint Artifact. After understanding the power of the Bell of Chaos, Xiaoping immediately put this treasure away. Then he looked at the stars on the ground. At this moment, it had been refined by a large number of treasures and activated by the origin of the World Tree. Its main body, the star's vine, immediately grew and advanced to the level of a peak mid-quality Saint Artifact. Its internal space was more than 100 times larger than before, and it could accommodate more things. The interior of the spaceship was like a planet, vast and boundless. At the same time, its speed had increased by more than 10 times. Ordinary Saint-level spaceships could not catch up to it. When it flew, it was like a meteor streaking across, leaving behind only a trace of starlight. Following that, its attack power became even more terrifying. In an instant, it could turn into a star's vine that spanned tens of millions of kilometers. Thousands of vines surged out like stars. The moment it appeared, it seemed to form a country of plants, turning into a forest. It even had the ability to seal the void. Beams of starlight intertwined, and it was enough to trap enemies in the star's vine. More importantly, the size of the star's vine was too huge. This was definitely a huge advantage in battles against enemies. Ordinary saints would not be able to destroy many of such immortal bodies even if they were tired of killing them. Sometimes, just as one vine was destroyed, another one would grow again. This was the terrifying thing about immortal plants. Their recovery speed was much faster than that of ordinary saints. In fact, during a battle between saints, the larger the creature, the greater the advantage. This meant that their immortal bodies were harder to destroy. Therefore, human saints who were small in size were at a disadvantage when compared to saints of other races. Fortunately, human saints comprehended laws faster than ordinary saints, so there were more high-level saints. Moreover, they were also good at refining magic treasures. This made up for a lot of their disadvantages. As expected of my stars. Is getting stronger and stronger. Corinne was mesmerized by it, feeling that it was a masterpiece that he had personally created. Well, it's time to set off for the Mystic Zones. At the thought of this, Xiaoping felt that he was almost ready and was ready to head to the Mystic Zones. Chapter 2272. However, before heading to the Mystic Zones, Xiaoping first went to the Dark North Peak to greet his master. Master. Xiaoping came to a palace in the Dark North Peak and saw his master sitting cross-legged in meditation. Oh, you plan to go to the Mystic Zones? Dark North opened his eyes and looked at Xiaoping. Yes, I will go to the Mystic Zones in a few days. Xiaoping nodded. The Mystic Zones are a very dangerous place where tens of thousands of races fight for hegemony. I believe you know this very well. Dark North Sage looked at Xiaoping and said, moreover, your name is now very famous. I reckon that Xiaoping's name has already spread throughout the universe. Some of the peak races are probably waiting for you to enter the mystic zones, and there are many traps waiting for you. They are probably willing to pay a certain price to destroy you. When you go to the mystic zones, you will probably be ambushed from all sides. At that time it won't be training anymore. You will just be going to the mystic zones to die. Disciple knows. But Master, are you saying this because you have a way to avoid this? Xiaoping looked at Dark North curiously. He could hear the hidden meaning in his master's words. There is one way. That is to hide your identity and appearance and create a fake identity. This way you can enter the mystic zones as another sage and no one will discover your true identity. Dark North indicated that Xiaoping could create a fake identity. Oh. Xiaoping asked. You don't have to worry about this. The upper echelons of the human race have the power to create a fake identity for you. It is guaranteed to be legal and no races in the universe can find anything fishy. Dark North smiled. It was impossible for an ordinary person to create a fake identity under the strict system of the human race. However, it was easy for the upper echelons of the human race to create a fake identity. Not to mention, the universe virtual network was under the control of the upper echelons of the human race. Now, you can imagine the name of your fake identity and the title you will have after you become a sage. Dark North said. The title of sage was a Taoist title that every human would take after becoming a sage. It represented a new life. For example, Dark North, Xiaoyao Ancestor, Emptiness Ancestor, etc. These were actually their Taoist titles and not their real names. However, after billions of years, these Taoist titles became their real names and their previous names were forgotten. Of course, if one didn't want to, one could also choose not to take a Taoist name. This was also one's freedom. However, most sages would also choose one for themselves. This was also a tradition. Upon hearing this, Xiaoping thought about it carefully. Call me Fengdu. In the future you can call me the Fengdu Saint. He recalled his relationship with the infernal realm. Fengdu was the capital of the infernal realm, the core of the infernal realm, the city of ghosts and gods. Using this name as his Taoist name couldn't be any more appropriate. Is everything okay? Your identity has been reported, and you will soon have a fake identity. Dark North Sage nodded, waved his hand and immediately reported Xiaoping's information. Then he grabbed at the void and immediately took out a new communicator. This is a new communicator. It has the chip of the Holy Land of Taichu installed in it. It can connect to the universe virtual network anytime, anywhere. This communicator represents your new identity. It contains your genetic information, past experiences and so on. Except for the Grand Masters of the human clan, no one has the authority to look up your information. With a snap, Xiaoping took the communicator. It was equivalent to him having two identities in the human world. Moreover, he had the help of the upper echelons of the human clan so no one could find out. Immediately, the communicator turned into an intelligent bracelet, wrapped around his wrist and fused with it. The next day, Xiaoping left Yanhuang Peak and changed into the appearance of the Fengdu Saint. Then he left the Holy Land of Taichu with the stars and went to a large world in the ordinary area of the central universe, the Tsangyue world. This world was actually a transit station, responsible for teleporting the sages to a place in the mystic zones. After all, it would probably take decades or even hundreds of years to fly from the ordinary area to the mystic zones. The journey was extremely long. In order to shorten the distance between the mystic zones and the ordinary areas, the sages of the human clan spent a lot of effort to build 3 large transit worlds and opened up more than a dozen space tunnels to teleport the sages to the mystic zones. Of course, people who weren't sages could also reach the mystic zones, but it required a lot of money to open a portal. After all, opening a portal required a lot of energy, and ordinary people couldn't afford it at all. I'm here. After a few more days, Xiaoping finally arrived at the Tsangyue world. It was a large world with a diameter of more than 1,000 light-years. The entire world looked like a war fortress tightly guarded and airtight. This was to be expected. After all, this place was an important space tunnel for the human clan to go to the mystic zones. If the enemy destroyed it, they would suffer heavy losses. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In the void, spaceships were sailing over from afar. Because Xiaoping wasn't the only one who came to this place. Sages from all over the universe, not just the Holy Land of Taichu, but also the Palace of Darkness and even some individual sages would come to this place. This place was also a public facility of the human clan, and any sage could come here. Therefore, there were many sages heading to the Tsangyue world. It was considered a busy transportation area. Beep. At this time, Corinne's voice was heard. The signal has been connected. We have received the signal guidance from the Zhangyue world. The spaceship has also passed the identity verification and is about to enter the Zhangyue world spaceship docking base. Boom. In the next second, the defensive energy shield of the Zhangyue world opened, guiding the stars into the world's docking base. Then it quickly landed. At this moment, there were many Tribulation Realm guards on the platform guarding this place. Another sage is going to the Mystic Zones. Why haven't I seen this sage before? Could it be that he had just advanced? He probably just advanced to the Immortal Realm. A new Immortal Realm? Is it Lord Xia from the Holy Land of Taichu? If it's Lord Xia, then it'll be incredible. It'll definitely shock the entire Zhangyue world. After all, who doesn't know his name? He advanced to the Immortal Realm after cultivating for only a few decades. His future is limitless. Everyone will try to curry favor with him. Shut up. Don't talk nonsense here. I've already verified his identity. It's not Lord Xia. His title is Fengdu. He seems to be a human individual sage. He hasn't joined any organization. Impossible. Do you see that spaceship? It's at least a mid-grade sacred artifact. It's priceless. Even ancient sages might not be able to afford it. This immortal sage probably has a strong background. Don't care so much. He's a sage. We can't afford to offend him. These guards discussed and gossiped about the identity of the newcomer. Of course, they were just using their divine sense to communicate and didn't say anything to let others know. They were just discussing in private. Chapter 2273. So, at this moment, Xia Ping arrived at Zhangyue World. He put away stars and it turned into a blade of grass that quickly fused into his body. Stars that had been upgraded to a medium-grade saint artifact had completely turned into a magic treasure. It had reached one with Xia Ping and could easily fuse into every corner of his body. Hello, Sage Fengdu, I am a staff member of Zhangyue World. At this moment, a staff member in black clothes immediately came forward. His attitude was very respectful. Through identity verification he knew Xia Ping's title. Of course it was just a title. He didn't know any other information. In fact, this also proved how important it was for Xia Ping to prepare a fake identity. If he arrived at Zhangyue World with his original identity, it would definitely attract countless people's attention. After all, Xia Ping's name was too famous. Many people called him a rare genius that only appeared once in a billion years. Even saints were paying attention to him and had high expectations. I want to enter the Mystic Zone. Where should I go? Xia Ping asked. Sage Fengdu, it's not far ahead. Follow this 10,000-kilometer long tunnel. Once you reach the end, you will reach the transfer station of the Mystic Zone. There are 9 space tunnels built there. You can enter the Mystic Zone. The staff member in black clothes pointed at a huge glass tunnel. Okay. Xia Ping nodded. His body flashed and he immediately passed through the transparent glass tunnel. Soon he arrived at a vast plaza at the end of the tunnel. 9 huge spatial passageways had appeared around the square, each containing a tyrannical law of space. In midair, there were even more restrictive formations set up one after another. Even if an immemorial saint descended here, he wouldn't be able to easily shake this place. At this moment, there were many saints gathered around the plaza. There were also a few lightning tribulation realm cultivators. They probably wanted to try their luck in the Mystic Zone and find a chance to break through to Saint Realm. Although the Mystic Zone was dangerous, there were many fortuitous encounters too. For the future, these lightning tribulation realm cultivators would still give it their all. Of course, 90% of these people would die. Hey newcomer. Hello, you came alone? At this moment, an undying saint in white clothes walked over and warmly greeted Xia Ping. Beside him stood 2 similarly young undying saints. Yes, I came alone. Xia Ping nodded. He had nothing to hide about this. I'm the Raindrop Saint from the Holy Land of Taichu. This is Goldwind Saint, also from the Holy Land of Taichu, and this is Dark Flame Saint from the Palace of Darkness. The white-robed sage said his name and also introduced his other 2 companions. Goldwind Saint and Dark Flame Saint also nodded to Xia Ping as a greeting. My name is Feng Du, a loose cultivator. Xia Ping also said his name. A rogue cultivator? Waterdrop Saint was shocked. Amazing, I didn't expect Brother Fengdu to be a rogue cultivator. It seems you are really amazing. Goldwind Saint and Dark Flame Saint were also a little surprised. In the human world, 90% of those who wanted to become saints were from the Holy Land of Taichu or the Palace of Darkness. Another 5% came from ancient clans or mysterious ancient powers. The remaining 5% were unaffiliated cultivators. They did not have any background or influence, and there was a good chance that they were born on some primitive planet. However, through their own talents and various fortuitous encounters, they had managed to reach sempiternal realm. Such unaffiliated sages were very rare, but even one of them was extraordinary and brimming with talent. Of course, because they were unaffiliated cultivators, they had no background and did not receive the best training, which led to their combat power being far inferior to the sages from the human race's holy land. After all, the human race's holy land had all kinds of ancient sages to guide them, countless secret manuals for cultivation, and large amounts of resources. How could an unaffiliated cultivator compare to a regular army? Not to mention that the humans who could enter the human race's holy land were basically peerless geniuses. They were no less talented than the unaffiliated sages, and some were even stronger. I was just lucky. I had some fortuitous encounters and barely reached the sempiternal realm. Xia Ping said modestly, "This time I came to the mystic area because I felt that my cultivation path had reached the end, so I went to the mystic area to look for opportunities to break through. Brother Fengdu is too modest. Even if you come from a sage family and have huge resources, there is only 1 in 10,000 who can reach the immortal realm, not to mention those unaffiliated cultivators with no background. It is simply unimaginable how difficult it is to stand out." Waterdrop Saint sighed. He was from a sage family, but he still felt it was difficult, not to mention those unaffiliated cultivators with no background. Indeed, the more you cultivate, the more difficult it becomes. Brother Fengdu, you can be considered an outstanding person to be able to fight your way out of countless difficulties and reach your current realm. Goldwind Saint also nodded. At their realm, there was no need to be arrogant because the sages like them were basically peerless geniuses, and no one was inferior to anyone else. It was just like the top students of various universities who were admitted into Tsinghua University. Basically, every student was the top scorer or top scorer of their province. Everyone was a top student and they were all on the same level, so how could they be arrogant? On the contrary, under such an environment, they felt more and more weak and ordinary, and their arrogance was completely obliterated. Indeed. After all, no one can be like Xia Ping from the Holy Land of Taichu, who reached the immortal realm after cultivating for only a few decades. His speed is unbelievably fast. Comparing oneself to others is really infuriating. Back then, I was trapped in the Thunder Tribulation realm for tens of thousands of years, and finally broke through after some fortuitous encounters. Dark Flame Saint sighed. That Xia Ping is indeed abnormal, but we can't compare with him. He's a monster that only appears once in a billion years. Who dares to compare with him? Waterdrop Saint shook his head. At first, I thought he might go to the mystic area to train since he had just reached the immortal realm, so I set out to try my luck and get to know him. It seems like I won't be so lucky now. Give up. Xia Ping has become a target of public criticism, and many races view him as an enemy. It is said that he is already on the bounty list of the monster race, elemental race, insect race, and other peak races. As long as he appears, he will be besieged and killed. Goldwind Saint waved his hand. If I were him, I wouldn't appear in the mystic area for a while. I would cultivate in the holy land of Taichu for a while, and only appear after the news has died down. Hearing this, Xia Ping was speechless. It seemed that he had completely underestimated his reputation. He didn't expect that a few immortal sages he randomly met would talk about him. One could imagine how famous he was among the other races. No wonder even his master was worried about his safety in the mystic area. Chapter 2274. Ahem. Xia Ping coughed and changed the topic. I want to ask why you guys are still waiting here. Why don't you use the spatial passages to reach the mystic zones? He looked at the Raindrop Saint and the others. Seems like it's Brother Fengdu's first time here. The reason is simple. These spatial passages aren't open all the time. In order to save energy, the spatial passages only open once every 3 days during peaceful times, regardless of the number of people. It only opened yesterday, so we have to wait here for 2 more days. I see. Xia Ping nodded. But there are 9 spatial passages here. Does each passage lead to a different place in the mystic zones? He wanted to learn more about the mystic zones. Although he already knew a lot of information from the Holy Land of Taichu, these sages were obviously old foxes. They might know something that wasn't shown in the information. Moreover, he was pretending to be a newbie who just arrived in the mystic zones, so it was normal for him to ask these questions. That's right. Goldwind Sage said solemnly, these spatial passages are separated into passages 1 to 9. Each passage leads to different dangerous places. Passage 1 is the least dangerous, suitable for undying sages to train there. Passage 9 is the most dangerous, requiring at least archaic sages to enter. He indicated that it was as Xia Ping said. Each spatial passage led to a different place. The Mystic Zones is a unique region of the universe. It's boundless, even larger than the north, south, east, and west regions combined. It's the true core region of the universe. Dark Flame Saint said, compared to the Mystic Zones, the other cosmos regions are just the outskirts, a remote and desolate place. The true essence of the universe and all kinds of treasures appear in this region. What's the situation in the Mystic Zones? Xia Ping asked. There are no planets in the Mystic Zones. There are only continents connected to each other. There are strange floating continents in the boundless void. Raindrop Saint explained, the distance between continents is extremely far. Sometimes, it takes hundreds or even thousands of years to travel by ship. Moreover, there are terrifying spatial storms that blow from time to time. Even immortal sages have to be careful when traveling between continents. One careless mistake and they will die in the spatial storms. Other than space storms, there were also many cosmic disasters such as doomsday lava, stellar explosions, black hole explosions, dimensional tremors, and so on. Once these cosmic disasters occur, even sages will die, let alone other weak living beings. Therefore, other than sages, it is very difficult for other mortals to survive in this place. Hearing this, Xia Ping nodded. This information was similar to what he knew. The Mystic Zones were a special region of the universe that was dominated by continents. Each continent was a unique continent that nurtured countless treasures. However, the Raindrop Sage did not stop there. He continued to introduce the Mystic Zones. In the Mystic Zones, the areas that can be called continents have a diameter of at least 1 million light-years. The areas smaller than this number are called islands. These islands float near the continents. They are densely dotted with thousands of islands, but they are scarce in resources. The bigger continents are extremely frightening. Some of them are called the main continents. They have a diameter of over 100 trillion light-years and contain a huge amount of resources. Our human race has occupied 3 main continents in the Mystic Zones. He showed a proud expression. That was because among the many peak races, they could only occupy 1 main continent. Some powerful races like the insect race and the demon race could only occupy 2 main continents. However, the human race occupied 3 main continents. This was a unique force. Many races fought for hegemony in the Mystic Zones. In fact, they were fighting for the main continents, islands, and other territories. The more main continents they occupied, the more resources they would obtain and the stronger their race would be. However, if their main continents were taken away, their entire race would be exterminated. In fact, many races that were eliminated in the Mystic Zones returned to the normal regions dejectedly. Some even fled to the north, south, east, and west cosmos. Without sufficient strength, they could not survive in the Mystic Zones. Brother Fengdu. At this time, the Raindrop Sage looked at Xia Ping. After saying so much, I believe you know how terrifying the Mystic Zones are. This time, we immortal sages went to the first spatial passage. This place is only a remote place in the Mystic Zones. This place has very few resources. There are some islands everywhere, but there are not many experts. Most of them are immortal sages. Only a few near ancient sages would appear. This kind of place is very suitable for us immortal sages to train. Even so, if we are not careful, we might be exterminated by the enemy. Therefore, we need to form a small team. A small team? Xia Ping blinked and looked at the Raindrop Sage. Yes, a small team. The Raindrop Sage nodded. In fact, this is very normal in the Mystic Zones. It is too dangerous to be alone. Only by forming a small team and having companions to take care of each other can we increase our chances of survival in the Mystic Zones. In fact, Brother Goldwind, Brother Dark Flame, we did not know each other before. We only got to know each other after coming here. Although we met by chance, we felt good together. Therefore, we decided to form a small team to explore the Mystic Zones together. What do you think? After saying this, the Raindrop Sage, Goldwind Sage, and Dark Flame Sage looked at Xia Ping. After thinking about it carefully, Xia Ping felt that he was not very familiar with the Mystic Zones. Although his strength was comparable to a near-ancient sage, who knew what would happen in such a dangerous place like the Mystic Zones. If he was too arrogant, he would die in the Mystic Zones sooner or later. The first thing he needed to do was to familiarize himself with the situation in the Mystic Zones before making any plans. Alright, then I will join you. Xia Ping agreed. Great, this is great. With Brother Fengdu joining us, we are like tigers that have grown wings. The Raindrop Saint and the others burst out laughing. They were very happy. In the blink of an eye, 2 days passed. During these 2 days, many sages came to the plaza one after another. It was finally time for the spatial passage to open. Everyone. At this time, a manager flew over from afar. Time is up. The 9 spatial passages will open for an hour. I hope everyone can enter quickly. If you miss this time, you will have to wait for 3 more days. Boom. In an instant, as soon as he finished speaking, the 9 spatial passageways began to tremble. A huge screen of light that was thousands of kilometers long seemed to appear between the entrances. Whoosh! Hearing this, all the sages on the plaza were delighted. They became spirited and walked toward the spatial passages. Xia Ping and the others also entered the first spatial passage. Chapter 2275. Boom! Suddenly the space around him changed. Xia Ping felt himself moving through the space tunnel. Finally he arrived at another place. I've arrived at the mystic zone? Xia Ping soon found himself in another place. The first thing that entered his sight was a vast square. There were a large number of figures around the square, all of whom had reached the sempiternal realm and were emanating the aura of a powerful soul domain. What's going on? Such dense cosmic origin energy. Soon he sensed the place he was in. The surrounding void was filled with dense cosmic origin energy. Even the Taichu Holy Land could not compare to this place. He felt his magic power advance by leaps and bounds. If he cultivated here, his cultivation speed would be at least several times faster than the Taichu Holy Land. As for the other regions, the efficiency was at least several dozen times higher. Clearly, the immortal sages who had just arrived at the mystic zone had sensed this. They all looked excited. They could clearly feel the benefits of entering the mystic zone. Brother Fengdu, looks like you've sensed it. Raindrop Sage looked at Xia Ping and laughed. This is the mystical part of the mystic zone. It's closest to the cosmic origin energy, so the surrounding void is frightening. If you cultivate in the mystic zone, your efficiency will increase by at least several times. Cultivating here for a year is comparable to several years in other regions, or even decades or centuries. He sighed with emotion. If there was no such environment, how could it attract so many sages to cultivate here? How could it nurture treasures that could make even sages drool? I see. But why are there so many immortal sages on the plaza? Xia Ping looked around and found that there were 20 to 30,000 immortal sages on the plaza. This number was frightening. He never thought there would be so many immortal sages. Ha, Brother Fengdu, I was as surprised as you at first. Goldwind Sage laughed, but after careful investigation, I felt that it was only natural. Humans have existed in the universe for countless eras. Even if there is only one immortal sage every 10,000 years, the number accumulated over time is still frightening. Even though many undying sages had fallen due to battles, wars, accidents, and falling into dangerous situations, the number of undying sages that survived was still quite shocking. The reason why the other regions of the universe feel that sages are rare is because most of them have already gathered in the mystic zones and won't easily return to their original regions. At this point he paused for a moment before continuing. Of course, more importantly, the sages who have come to this human base are not just human sages. There are also many sages from other vassal races. There are billions of races that have attached themselves to our human race. Even if only one saint is born from each race, this number is more than the number of undying saints of our human race. He said that there were not only human sages in the base, but also sages of other races. I see. Xia Ping suddenly understood. The human race was one of the top races in the universe, so naturally, there were many vassals. If the weaker races wanted to survive, they had to rely on the wings of the top races. In fact, it was not only the human race. For example, the demon race, the elemental race, the dragon race, and so on, they also had many vassal races around them. Only then could they be considered as a huge force that formed the peak races. Of course, among the alliance of so many races, the human race had an absolute advantage in terms of military strength. After all, it wasn't the undying saints that decided the fate of the universe, but the high-level sages. An immemorial sage was something that even 100,000 undying sages couldn't compare to. Not to mention an invincible sage, even if many undying sages gathered together, they still wouldn't be a match. However, there are so many races that have attached themselves to our human race. How can we differentiate between friend and foe? Xia Ping asked. He felt that there were simply too many races in the universe, like a school of carps in the river. It was impossible to remember all of them. That's easy. Dark Flame Sage laughed. I believe you have a communicator on you too. It's installed with the human race's universe virtual network. There's also a function inside called the war support system. Every one of us logs into the universe virtual network, which is equivalent to registering our information with the human race. Those vassal races also have access to the universe virtual network. As long as the other party also has the universe virtual network installed, the system will immediately recognize them. After all, the demon race, elemental race, and other peak races don't dare to use our universe virtual network. So that's how it is. Xia Ping's eyes gleamed. With Dark Flame Sage's explanation, he understood the crux of the matter. The universe virtual network could be said to be the strongest technology of the human race. It was because of the universe virtual network that the human race was able to rise step by step until they finally became the peak race of the universe. After all, the universe was simply too vast. It was practically boundless. Even the distance between planets was inconceivable. If it was during the immemorial era, before the universe virtual network appeared, communication between humans wouldn't be this convenient. Sometimes, sending a message from the North Universe to the South Universe would take tens to hundreds of years, some even tens of thousands of years. In between, there might even be signal interference. However, the moment the universe virtual network appeared, it could instantly send messages. This increased the efficiency by countless times. This way, the strength of the entire human race was condensed into one. They would instantly know the news of every corner of the human territory. They would never be taken down by their enemies. The other races weren't so lucky. They didn't have the technology that the human race had. If it was just setting up a virtual network within 100 light years, they might be able to do it. However, to set up a virtual network that covered the entire universe without any delay was simply a fool's dream. This caused their communication methods to be outdated. They were far from being able to compare to the human race. Moreover, these peak races didn't dare to use the human race's virtual network. After all, the moment they logged into the universe virtual network, all sorts of information, intelligence, martial arts, and laws on them would be leaked out. After Xia Ping became a sage, he finally understood how powerful the universe virtual network was. It was simply the foundation of the human race's continuous prosperity. It was the foundation of everything. In fact, to obtain the secrets of the human race's universe virtual network, the various major races had been constantly probing. However, they still couldn't obtain any information. This was ultimately the human race's top secret. Chapter 2276. At this time, the commotion caused by Xia Ping's group's arrival attracted the attention of many undying sages. Look, some newcomers are here. It's true. I wonder what the quality of the newcomers is like. I hope they're strong enough. Newcomers, do you want to join our fierce tiger squad? I guarantee you'll have a good life. Hurry up and scram. Joining our hungry wolf squad is the best choice. Our squad will become stronger. One by one, the undying sages surrounded Xia Ping's group. They were very enthusiastic, hoping that these newcomers would join their squad. In fact, Xia Ping had received some information about the mystic zones before coming. In the mystic zones, sages would form squads with each other. Some squads were strong and had reasonable members, so their survival rate was naturally higher. Some squads were weak and had a low survival rate. Regardless, after many years of fighting, many sage squads would suffer some losses. They needed large amounts of new blood to make up for their squad's strength. Thus, these veterans were very excited to see so many newcomers entering the mystic zones. They wanted to find new teammates. Don't agree to these people. Let's leave first. Goldwind Sage transmitted his divine sense to let Xia Ping's group know. Xia Ping and Waterdrop Sage looked at each other and seemed to understand each other's intentions. They rejected the invitations of these veterans and expressed that they would not join any squads. They spent a lot of effort to squeeze out of the crowd and arrived at an empty space. Goldwind, why don't you agree to join those squads? With the experience of these veterans, it should be very beneficial for us to familiarize ourselves with the mystic zones. Waterdrop Sage asked curiously. No rush. Goldwind Sage waved his hand. We've just arrived, so how would we know which squads are good and which are bad? These enthusiastic people are probably all weak squads that lack members. Truly strong squads don't need invitations and don't lack members. Only by joining such squads can we have a place in the mystic zones. Thus, we'll stay here for now and observe carefully. It won't be too late to join when we find a suitable squad. There's no need to be so anxious. He felt that if they rashly joined a squad, they would only be cannon fodder. If they encountered some sages with ulterior motives, they wouldn't even know how they died. Although they were all humans, it wasn't the first time that they had killed each other. For the sake of treasures, sometimes sons would even kill their fathers, let alone others. Indeed, joining a team is equivalent to choosing a faction, choosing a side. This is a matter of life and death, so we can't be careless. We still want to establish a foothold in this place first. Dark Flame Saint agreed with this point. I have no objections. Let's stay here for a few days to understand the situation. Xia Ping nodded. A few days later, Xia Ping had finally settled down in the mystic zones. He chose a hotel to rest in and began to slowly understand the situation around him. First of all, the human base he arrived at was located in a remote corner of the mystic area. Everyone called this place the Stormy Sea area. Although it was called the Sea region, there was no ocean here. It was just a boundless void. Powerful cosmic storms surged everywhere. Just to make it easier to understand, this place was called the Sea region. This area of the sea was also very dangerous. Cosmic storms were blowing everywhere. If ordinary spaceships were careless, they would be easily torn into countless pieces. Even sages couldn't easily cross the sea region alone. The human base Xia Ping's group was at a large island in the Stormy Sea region, Stormy Island. This island had a diameter of over 100,000 light years. The human race occupied a total of 100 islands in the mystic zones. These places were also known as novice bases. Countless newly promoted sages would head to these novice bases for their first step of adaptation. Because the vicinity of these novice bases wasn't particularly dangerous, it wasn't the center of the struggle for hegemony. The intensity of the war wasn't that terrifying either. It was considered a mild buffer zone. One day noon, Xia Ping, Waterdrop Sage, Goldwind Sage, and Dark Flame Saint gathered again and came to a restaurant for lunch. I thought I would be prepared for hardship after arriving in the mystic zones. I didn't expect the environment in Stormy Island to be so comfortable. Waterdrop Sage sighed. Although Stormy Island was a military base, it was no different from an ordinary city after years of construction. There were large amounts of entertainment and service facilities. Some were even more luxurious than the cities outside. It's comfortable, but it's also very expensive. Goldwind Sage shook his head. Just staying in a hotel on Stormy Island cost 10,000 universe dollars a night, 300,000 universe dollars a month. Moreover, the food was also very expensive, at least a few times more than the outside world. This was because many of the resources on Stormy Island were transported from other places, so the transportation cost was very high. The real treasures in this place can't be bought with universe dollars. They need to be exchanged with points. Goldwind Sage sighed. After entering the mystic zones, all sages, be it humans, vassal races, independent cultivators, or people from the human race's sacred land, would all become members of the human army. In the internal system of the army, there would be all kinds of precious treasures suitable for sages to cultivate. It was enough to make countless sages drool. However, they needed to be exchanged with points. Without points, they couldn't get any treasures. Moreover, these points were shared with the sacred land of Taichu, Palace of Darkness, and All Saints Palace. Indeed, although Stormy Island is huge, it's not easy to live here. Dark Flame Saint sighed. It shouldn't be too difficult. If we can kill a foreign race sage, we can immediately earn a lot of points. Xia Ping smiled. In the mystic zones, if they wanted to earn a lot of points, the most important way was to kill foreign race sages. The more they killed, the more points they would get. This was the real battlefield of the 10,000 races. The death of a foreign race sage would weaken their strength, and it would take a long time to make up for it. After all, it was also very difficult for sages to cultivate. If too many foreign race sages died, the balance of the war would be in favor of the human race. Therefore, in the War of the Mystic Zones, the fight for territory was not the most important. What was important was the number of sages. If a certain number of foreign race sages were killed, to the point where they could no longer guard the area, it would naturally become the territory of the human race. For hundreds of millions of years, the human race had killed step by step in this way. Every inch of the territory contained a large number of sages' blood and white bones. Chapter 2277. Kill a sage? That's difficult. Who wouldn't want to kill a sage if given the chance? But it's hard to do so. Do you really think that the sages of the foreign races are fools? How can they be killed so easily? Hearing this, the Raindrop Sage, Dark Flame Sage, and Goldwind Sage shook their heads with bitter smiles. Indeed, just as Xia Ping said, the best way to obtain a large number of points was to kill the sages of the foreign races. Killing an early-stage immortal sage would give one 10 million points. Killing an intermediate-stage immortal sage would give one 30 million points. Killing a late-stage immortal sage would give one 50 million points. Killing an early-stage immortal sage would give 100 million points. So on and so forth. The more powerful the sage killed, the more points one would obtain. If one followed the rules and slowly accumulated points, an immortal sage might not even be able to accumulate 10 million points in 100 million years. One could imagine how difficult it was to obtain points. The problem was it that easy to kill an immortal sage? After reaching the immortal sage realm, all of them had an immortal body. Even if they were left with only one cell, they could regenerate it. Killing an immortal sage was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Not to mention immortal sages of the same level. Even if both sides had great battle prowess, they could still escape if they couldn't win. Thus, over the past hundreds of millions of years, there were very few casualties between sages of the same level. Unless some immortal sages were unlucky and encountered experts of the near-ancient sage realm, they wouldn't be able to escape even if they wanted to. It's fine. Even if we can't kill them, we can still search for treasures and exchange them for points. Xiaoping smiled. Killing sages of the foreign races wasn't the only way to obtain points. At the same time, they could exchange some treasures that they didn't need for points and sell them to the human army. Of course, the purchase price was naturally lower than the market price. Right, speaking of which, we have also stayed in Stormy Island for a few days. It's time for us to explore the island. There's no need to stay here and rot. The Raindrop Sage suggested. Stormy Island is surrounded by an extremely dangerous sea region. There might be many sages of the foreign races in hiding. If we aren't careful, we might be killed. The Dark Flame Sage said with a solemn expression. In the Stormy Sea region there were many islands. The smaller ones were only 1 light year, while the larger ones were hundreds of light years. These islands were densely packed together, and there were at least tens of millions of them. Some of these islands hid a large number of precious treasures that even sages would drool over. Some of them were just barren places. No matter what, this sea region had a large number of secret treasures that were suitable for sages to cultivate with. However, the human race was not the only master of this sea region. There were also other powerful races. Their power in the Stormy Sea region was no less than that of the human race. These foreign race sages would also hide around these islands and hunt down human sages. After all, instead of searching for treasures on these barren islands, it would be better to kill a human race sage. This way, the chances of obtaining treasures would be higher, and they might even be able to obtain more treasures. Of course, the human race sages had the same idea. They often hid and hunted the sages of other races. As a result, this led to the entire Stormy Sea region becoming an extremely dangerous battlefield, with killing intent everywhere. It doesn't matter. The sages who stay in such a remote place like the Storm Sea area are at most peak immortal sages. Even if we can't beat them, we can still avoid them with our strength. If we are careful, we won't be killed. Goldwind Sage said in a deep voice. Indeed. Since we have all reached the immortal realm, there is no need to be too careful. Raindrop Sage also made up his mind. I don't have any objections. Xiaoping was very calm and courageous because of his skill. Alright, let's set off tomorrow. Seeing that the other 3 didn't have any objections, Dark Flame Sage had no reason to object. Another day passed. Xiaoping and the others arrived at the assembly hall of Stormy Island. This was the only exit of Stormy Island. Many sages left Stormy Island from this place. Whoosh. At this moment, the Raindrop Saint waved his hand and pulled out an aqua-blue spaceship from his space ring. It was as translucent as a droplet of water and was covered in inscriptions of laws. To no surprise, it was a low-quality saint artifact. Let's set off on my Raindrop. It is made of the universe metal water ripple gold. Even if we encounter an immortal sage's attack, it will be able to greatly weaken the opponent's strength. It will be like merging with the sea. Raindrop Sage proudly introduced his sacred spaceship. In order to build this spaceship, he had paid a huge price. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he had spent all his fortune. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Xiaoping, Dark Flame Sage, and Goldwind Sage boarded Raindrop without hesitation and went to the resting hall of the spaceship. Let's go. Raindrop Sage waved his hand. Raindrop immediately flew out along the passageway of the base. After flying for millions of kilometers, they finally left this long passageway. Rumbled in the next second, Raindrop left Stormy Island and arrived in the cosmic void outside. With a beep, the virtual projection of the spaceship opened. The entire outer shell turned illusory and everything outside was displayed. Everyone looked behind and immediately saw the overall appearance of Stormy Island. Amazing. This is Stormy Island. Xiaoping's eyelids twitched. Even though he had seen many things, he was still shocked by the shocking scene in front of him. Raindrop Sage and the others weren't any better. The entire Stormy Island was extremely huge. It looked like a huge sun. It was boundless and one couldn't see the end of Stormy Island with the naked eye. Moreover, this island was wrapped in a huge golden energy shield. The thickness of this energy shield alone reached 100 million kilometers. It was terrifyingly thick. An all-out attack from an immortal sage wouldn't be able to shake the energy shield at all. Moreover, there were millions of turrets around the island. There were Star Destroyer cannons, spatial cannons, void cannons, law cannons, laser cannons, and so on. They were densely arranged and formed a three-dimensional war artillery system. If these artillery shells were fired at the same time, even a near-ancient sage would be blasted into pieces. One could imagine that the entire Stormy Island had been built into a real war fortress. Most of the area inside was used to build weapon systems, restrictive formations, and law patterns. However, after thinking about it carefully, this was reasonable. After all, this place was the novice base of the human race. It was connected to a void passageway and could directly lead to the hinterland of the human race. It was equivalent to a strategic fortress. If this place was lost, it would be equivalent to the human race losing a strategic point and a forward base. Such a loss would be disastrous. Chapter 2278. A few days later, Waterdrop was sailing in the void. It had left Stormy Island and entered the boundless void, freely traversing through this stormy sea region. Occasionally they would encounter terrifying cosmic storms that could destroy the heavens and the earth. Fortunately, the Waterdrop was also a Saint-grade spaceship. It was extremely sturdy and fast, so it was able to avoid the destruction of these storms. Along the way they were relatively safe and didn't encounter any danger. There are many wreckages around. Xiaoping saw the situation outside through the ship's virtual projection. He saw a large number of spaceship wreckage, meteorites, magic treasure fragments, and so on floating in the void. They were like large pieces of garbage, floating in the surroundings and acting as obstacles. Waterdrop was carefully avoiding these obstacles and slithering in a snake-like manner. It said that there were countless battles in the vicinity of Stormy Island. There were even medieval saints who fell here. The Raindrop Saint said what he knew. Therefore, the nearby islands collapsed and turned into a large number of meteorite fragments, which drifted in the void. Moreover, the islands in the mystic zones are very cold and hard. Even immortal saints can't easily shatter them. They can also resist the space storms in this sea region. That's why there are so many wreckages. Look, there are many ship wreckages and artifact fragments. Maybe there are some treasures. Why don't we go and pick them up? Goldwind Sage suggested, pointing at the floating space trash. He felt that there might be a chance to find some secret treasures among them. Don't be silly. Dark Flame Sage waved his hand. If there were any treasures in these wreckages, they would have been plundered by other saints after billions of years. How could we get a chance? The things left behind are all trash that others wouldn't even want. If there really is a valuable universe wreckage, then we have to be vigilant. Perhaps this is a trap. Once we get close, we'll be ambushed. He felt that there weren't so many things to pick up in this world. There wouldn't be such a huge toad jumping on the streets. Moreover, this was the myriad race battlefield. It was extremely dangerous, so they had to be careful. Forget it, I was just saying. Goldwind Sage shrugged and said, but where are we going? Won't it be a waste of time to wander aimlessly like this? Don't worry. Raindrop Saint said in a deep voice. That area was still within the sphere of influence of our human race, so the sages of the alien races didn't dare to approach it. However, we've been sailing for several days and have completely left the safe zone of the human race. It's not strange for enemies to appear at any time. It doesn't matter even if we don't find any saints. We can totally land on some islands. It said that there are many universal treasures on the islands. We can go there and plunder them. He said that they would be able to reach a place where some islands were clustered after sailing for a while. There is a small island up ahead. There might be treasures there. Let's go take a look. Dark Flame Saint suddenly pointed to a small island that seemed to have a diameter of more than 10 light years. Whoosh. Hearing this, the Waterdrop immediately flew towards an island in the distance. Near an island, a fist-sized grayish-brown stone floated quietly in the void. It was a spatial artifact disguised as a small meteorite. 5 peak immortal saints were gathered inside it. They were the sages of the elemental race. They were the water elemental race, fire elemental race, earth elemental race, Metal Elemental Race and Wood Elemental Race. These 5 elemental saints were a powerful team of sages. They had cooperated for a long time. When the 5 elemental saints joined forces, they could immediately arrange a 5 elements battle formation. They could easily crush the enemy and exert several times their combat power. They looked like humans with heads, noses, mouths, hands, and feet. However, their bodies were condensed from elements and didn't have flesh and blood. For example, the water elemental race's body was condensed from liquid. The fire elemental race's body was condensed from flames. The metal elemental race's body was like metal people. They could easily change into other races' forms. They only had one elemental core in their body that supported all their power. Sure enough, when the 5 elemental saints joined forces and arranged the 5 elements battle formation, our power doubled and we were successful in every endeavor. This time, we easily annihilated a team of saints of the alien races. It's a pity that we didn't kill all of them and let some of them escape. The one who spoke was the fire elemental saint. His name was Delian. He looked very happy. It can't be helped. The immortal saints aren't that easy to kill. We were already very lucky to be able to kill 3 of them. After using all our trump cards, it's normal for a few of them to escape. The water elemental Saint Valadin smiled. He didn't think it mattered. Being able to kill 3 immortal saints of the alien races meant that they could obtain a huge amount of military merit, which was equivalent to a harvest of millions. Moreover, they could also obtain all the treasures on them. This was already a huge fortune. If they cultivated peacefully, they might not have such a harvest even after 1,000,000 years. This was a windfall. That was why the battlefield of the myriad races made them so crazy and unwilling to give up. The biggest contribution this time is Buteshi. If it wasn't for him discovering the team of the alien races and trapping them in time, I'm afraid most of them might have escaped. The metal elemental Saint Pat looked at the wood elemental Saint Strong. No. I just happened to be there. Without you guys joining forces, we wouldn't have been able to kill them. The wood elemental Saint Strong said modestly. Alright, there's no need to be humble. Everyone has contributed to this. As long as we keep working together, this kind of harvest will be endless. That's right. Those alien races saints are simply our ATM. Alright, same rules. The harvest this time will be divided equally among the 5 of us. The treasures that we don't want can be sold in exchange for military merit. The few elemental saints laughed. Their cooperation was very pleasant. Wait, it seems that a human saint is coming over here. A spaceship is flying over openly. Suddenly, the wood elemental Saint Strong spoke. He sensed something. Indeed. I've never seen this spaceship model before. Moreover, it's so brazen. It might be a rookie that just arrived in the mystic zones. The water elemental Saint Valadin's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. Rookies are great. The ones who die the most on the battlefield are these rookies. They have just advanced to the immortal realm and think that they won't die just because they have the immortal body. However, there are many ways to kill them on the battlefield. It's said that the human saints are rich. If we can kill one, we will definitely become rich. What are you waiting for? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Haha, I told you that we're lucky today. I didn't expect to encounter a few more human saints coming to die. God is really helping us. Trap them first. Don't let them escape. The few elemental saints were murderous. They looked at each other and immediately took action, flying out of the space artifact. Chapter 2279. On the Water Drop. I don't know what treasures there are on this island. It would be great if there are some rare treasures. Stop dreaming. I don't think there are any treasures on this desolate island. If there were treasures, it would have become a real battlefield long ago. Even the sages of ancient times would have appeared here. Don't say that. Maybe we are lucky and can find some treasures. The Waterdrop Saint, the Gold Wind Saint, and the Dark Flame Saint were chatting casually. The atmosphere was very relaxed. Be careful, there's killing intent. All of a sudden, Xiaoping's eyes flashed with a frightening light. He activated the infernal Golden Crow's eye and saw through all illusions. No illusions could hide from him, and no enemy's tracks could be hidden from him. The moment the 5 elemental race sages came out of their spatial magic treasures, his consciousness, which was constantly monitoring the surroundings, immediately sensed them. Even though there was only a weak fluctuation in the void, it could not hide from him. What? Hearing Xiaoping's words, the Waterdrop Saint, the Gold Wind Saint, and the Dark Flame Saint were also shocked. All the cells in their body immediately became alert. Although they were a beat slower than Xiaoping, They immediately sensed the terrifying killing intent in the depths of the void and the terrifying pressure that could topple mountains and overturn seas. It seemed that at this moment, a terrifying killing intent came from the depths of the island, piercing through the void and making their hair stand on end. They felt an unprecedented crisis. Rumble in an instant from the depths of the void from all four directions, tens of thousands of terrifying energies blasted out. Their trajectories meandered and densely covered the void. These energies contained the power of the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. They condensed into a substance and seemed to communicate with the energy of countless dimensional spaces, intertwining with each other. However, these energies of the 5 elements did not directly attack Xia Ping and the others. Instead, they were distributed in the void within a radius of 100 million kilometers. In an instant, the energy lines intertwined with each other like the lines of laws. Finally, they formed a huge cage of 5 elements that covered a radius of 100 million kilometers. Under this cage, all spatial power seemed to be forbidden, forming an absolute domain. Damn, this is the cage of 5 elements. The elemental race sages have made a move. Those bastards want to trap us. Waterdrop Saint's expression changed drastically. He immediately knew that this was the famous 5 elements cage. It contained tyrannical power of laws that could even distort the void. Even undying sages couldn't escape from the cage in a short period of time. In the end, they could only be trapped and killed by the enemy. It was said that this was a supreme secret technique of the elemental race and was extremely powerful. Many human saints had fallen for it and died. Moreover, the elemental race was also one of the top races. Their strength was no less than that of the human race. One could imagine how powerful the elemental saints were. Where did those elemental race saints come from? Why didn't we discover them before? Goldwind Saint's expression was extremely unsightly. If they had discovered it in advance, they would not have been so passive and fallen into the enemy's trap. Earlier they were probably hiding inside a spatial magic treasure. This magic treasure has the power to isolate divine sense, allowing it to disguise itself as a meteorite or something else. That's why we didn't notice them. Xia Ping voiced out his speculation. Get out, we can't stay on the Waterdrop and fight them. Dark Flame Saint immediately said. The Waterdrop Saint did not hesitate and immediately opened the cabin door of the flying ship, allowing Xia Ping and the others to quickly leave the Waterdrop. Although the Waterdrop was a low-grade sacred artifact, it couldn't withstand the attack of a sage. In an intense battle, the Waterdrop might even shatter. If that was the case, he would probably feel the pinch. No matter how much he lost, he wouldn't be able to make up for it. With a swoosh, Xia Ping and the others immediately appeared in the cosmic void. The Waterdrop Saint casually kept the flying ship. Haha, they are indeed human sages. There are 4 of them and they are all at the sempiternal realm. We're too lucky. We really encountered 4 rookies. Kill these 4 fellows and we'll definitely obtain a windfall. Even that low-grade sacred artifact flying ship will be enough to make up for all our losses. Attack, kill them. Don't give them a chance to call for help. End this quickly. With a few swoosh sounds, the 5 elemental race sages immediately appeared. They appeared at the top, bottom, left, right, and center respectively and attacked Xia Ping and the others at the same time. They did not hesitate and attacked ruthlessly. They also had no intention of chatting with Xia Ping and the others. Their attacks were filled with boundless killing intent. Damn it, it's over. How did this happen? Why are we so unlucky? We encountered 5 peak immortal sages the moment we left. The Waterdrop Saint's face turned pale. He could sense the terrifying killing intent from the 5 immortal sages and the battle-hardened aura from them. Not only did the other party possess superior strength and numbers, but they were also incomparable to rookies like them in terms of combat experience. The gap was extremely huge. Although they also had 4 immortal sages, the other party had 5. They were at an absolute disadvantage in terms of numbers. Call for help. Call for help immediately. Let the surrounding sages come and save us. The Goldwind Saint immediately said. No, I already sent out a signal just now. However, there are no sages within several tens of thousands of light years. Even if we call for help, they won't be able to arrive in a short time. The Dark Flame Saint gritted his teeth. He had sent out the signal from the very beginning. However, their allies were too far away. The Stormy Sea region was also huge. Even if the reinforcements arrived, they would need some time. During this period of time, they might not be able to hold on. Clearly, the 5 elemental sages had been fighting in the Stormy Sea region for a long time. They also knew that the human sages loved to surround and attack. Therefore they would consider this point and end the battle as soon as possible to avoid being surrounded by the human sages. Xia Ping's expression was very calm. It was just 5 immortal sages. He was still rather relaxed. However, he wanted to see how strong the other immortal sages were. He was in no hurry to make a move. You want to call for help? Do you think we will give you a chance? Too naive. 5 elemental vipers bite the void. The 5 immortal sages had malevolent expressions. They formed seals with both hands and activated the 5 elemental cage. The 5 elemental sages rapidly gathered and turned into vipers. They contained metal, wood, water, fire, earth, and other elemental energies. Moreover, there were too many vipers. There were billions of them. They densely covered the void. Rumbled, these 5 elemental venomous snakes covered the sky and blasted toward the Raindrop Saint, Dark Flame Saint, Goldwind Saint, and the others. Each snake contained the power of a Star Destroyer cannon. Just one attack could easily tear apart a planet. Chapter 2280. You want to kill me? How could it be so easy? Sword Path Mystique, Raindrop Stone Piercing. Sensing the boundless killing intent in the depths of the void, Raindrop Saint bellowed. He immediately drew a low-grade sacred artifact blue longsword and used his Sword Path Mystique. He waved the longsword in his hand and condensed a massive amount of water magic power. Each sword chi turned into a water droplet. In a few breaths there were billions of water droplets. Moreover, every drop of water contained a terrifying penetrative power, as well as the power of sharpness. Billions of water droplets represented billions of sword chi. They fused together and formed a sword path formation that blasted towards the 5 elemental race sages, tearing everything in its path apart. Tornado Remnant Snow. Goldwind Saint made a grabbing motion and also took out a low-rank Saint artifact, Earth Fiend Astral Fan. It was a golden fan with densely packed restrictive formations carved on it. It could communicate with the dimension of wind and contained a frightening astral wind power. Whoosh, he waved his hand and seemed to mobilize the baleful chi and astral wind of the world. They whistled and formed terrifying tornadoes that covered the sky and the earth, shaking everything within billions of kilometers. The tornadoes contained terrifying killing intent and kept slicing and tearing. They seemed to have turned into countless wind blades, slicing countless meteorites into pieces like a cutting machine. Every wind blade that erupted was extremely sharp, like the shocking sword chi of a peerless sword path expert. Dark Dragon Sky Splitting Fist. Dark Flame Saint wore a black boxing glove that looked like a dragon's head and emitted terrifying dragon might. The dragon's eyes were vivid and lifelike as if they would come to life at any moment. This was his low-grade sacred artifact, Dark Dragon Glove. It was a powerful sacred artifact made from the scales of the Dark Dragon and could greatly increase the power of Dark Flame Saint's mystique. Dong, dong, dong. He stood in the void like a peerless martial path expert. His fist surged out of the sea. In an instant, the void within billions of kilometers was filled with densely packed fist imprints. There were at least 100 million of them. These fist imprints were extremely terrifying and seemed to be able to tear the world apart. They contained the Dark Dragon's power and were filled with terrifying true dragon flames that burned the void. When such a fist smashed down, the heavens shook and the earth trembled. It was as if the entire void was about to collapse. The 3 undying saints attacked at the same time, almost crushing the heavens and sweeping through the void. As for Xia Ping, he operated the Dark North body protecting skill, and countless layers of energy shields surged out of his body, layer by layer, as if forming a Kunping domain, and offset all the attack power. Bang bang bang. When these powers collided, they immediately produced an intense explosion. It was as if a planet had exploded, producing a world-shaking sound. Terrifying energy swept in all directions, shattering meteorites. If this was a battle on a planet, the planet would probably be shattered in an instant. The elemental snakes also crumbled under this power, turning into nothingness. Ah! As expected of the saints of the human race. You're powerful indeed. Even if you're a newly minted saint, your battle prowess is nothing to scoff at. However, you guys are still too inexperienced. We, the 5 elemental race saints, have joined forces to set up the 5 elements absolute killing formation. The power of the 5 elements is endless and indestructible. Let's see how you can block it. If it weren't for the fact that I'm worried about your human reinforcements, I would have exhausted you to death right here. Cut the crap. Kill them immediately to prevent any more problems. Attack. 5 elements palm imprint. Reverse heaven and earth, submit. The five elemental race immortal sages were also shocked by the power of Xia Ping and the others. However, they were only slightly shocked. The five immortal sages had joined forces and set up the five elements cage. These immortal sages were like turtles in a jar. They formed hand seals and immediately mobilized the power of the five elements in the depths of the formation. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, and other elemental powers circulated like a storm, turning into rivers that spanned tens of millions of kilometers. It could be said that this was the terrifying aspect of the elemental race. They were born with elemental bodies and could naturally use elemental powers. The power they could unleash was several times that of the human race. Especially when the power of the five elements fused, they could unleash their battle prowess several times that of before. Originally, their cultivation was high, reaching the peak of the sempiternal realm. At the same time, they had the advantage in numbers, and they had joined forces to set up a formation. This kind of battle prowess was much higher than the Raindrop Saint. Rumble, in an instant, palms condensed from the five elements appeared in the void. There were hundreds of millions of palms, like the hands of a giant, reaching out from the void. These palms attacked one after another as if they were swatting flies. There were thousands and thousands of them, and they slapped at the Raindrop Saint and the others fiercely. Bang, bang, bang. The Raindrop Saint and the others were caught off guard. They were instantly sent flying like rubber balls. At the same time, a terrifying power vibrated in their bodies, producing a terrifying destructive power. Even though they resisted with all their might, there were just too many palms. Their magic power was rapidly depleting, and each attack consumed a portion of their power. Damn it. The Raindrop Saint clenched his teeth and swung his sword, destroying the palm imprints one by one. However, there were simply too many of them and they were unending. If he made a single mistake, the palm would land on his body and cause him to cough up blood. How troublesome. Dark Flame Saint's face was gloomy. He tried his best to resist, but he was in the middle of the enemy's formation. Moreover, the five elemental race saints were elusive and could appear in any corner at any time. He couldn't find the enemy's true body. He could only passively take a beating. It was very sullen. Fortunately, his martial path magic was very powerful and he could barely resist. Damn it, I can't get out. Goldwind Saint darted left and right. He turned into a breeze and tried to escape, but no matter where he went, he was trapped by the five elements cage. He couldn't escape. It was like a turtle in a jar. Moreover, the surrounding void was sealed. There was no way for him to escape. Not bad. Xia Ping's figure flickered. He used the Kuanpeng steps and easily dodged the palms coming from the void as if he was taking a stroll. He didn't consume much energy. He was slowly comprehending the fighting style of the elemental race saints. Moreover, he used the infernal golden crow's eyes and saw the five elemental race saints standing in the depths of the void. He couldn't help but feel that these elemental race saints were indeed very mysterious. Their elemental body was also very powerful. Their entire body was composed of energy. Even if one of their limbs was cut off, they could quickly regenerate. It was impossible to harm their body. There were only two ways to kill an elemental race saint. One was to destroy their soul, and the other was to shatter their elemental core. Chapter 2281. Damn it, these human rookies have some ability. I can't even injure them with this. One of them is very strange. He's only dodging and not attacking. He seems to be observing us. Is he trying to find out where we are and counterattack? Counterattack my ass. How can this brat counterattack? Don't be a fool's dream. Don't be careless. The human race has endless magic treasures. Who knows what trump cards he has? Even if he's just a sempiternal initial stage rookie, we have to be careful. Even a lion will go all out against a rabbit. That's right. Don't be stingy. Use your trump card and kill them. The five elemental sages exchanged glances. They immediately paid more attention to Xia Ping's group because they could feel the threat from the four immortal sages. They were especially wary of Xia Ping. This human seemed to be giving off an unfathomable aura. Divine ability, five elemental flowing light. The five immortal sages of the elemental race roared and formed hand seals to activate the five elemental formation. Rumble, immediately, countless elemental powers vibrated. One elemental river after another pierced through the void, connecting to countless dimensional worlds. A huge amount of energy poured down, shaking the void. In the blink of an eye, these elemental energies transformed into beams of light, forming millions upon millions of beams. They were so dense that they practically covered the entire space, leaving no gaps. Damn it. The expressions of the raindrop sage and the others changed. They sensed how terrifying these rays were. They contained a sharp power that could pierce through everything. Even low-grade sacred tools would find it hard to block them. Without saying a word, they immediately activated their divine abilities in an attempt to block them. Bang, bang, bang. One after another, the elemental rays bombarded the bodies of the raindrop sage and the others. Immediately, they felt their magic power depleting rapidly. Layer after layer of restrictive formations weakened. Ah! At this moment, the raindrop sage couldn't help but scream. Due to a moment of carelessness, his arm was pierced by an elemental ray. A large amount of blood splattered out. Under normal circumstances, such an injury would be nothing. However, when his arm was injured, the black aura attached to the elemental ray seemed to have a life of its own and immediately drilled into the wound. Damn it, what is this? Not only Raindrop Sage, but Goldwind Sage's right leg was also pierced by an elemental ray due to a moment of carelessness. A large amount of blood spurted out. For a moment he felt a terrifying poison invading his body. As if it had a life of its own, it instantly entered the depths of his soul and was corroding it. Immediately he felt as if his body had been splashed with sulfuric acid. His soul was being corroded, producing a large amount of thick smoke. This kind of pain was simply unimaginable, as if his heart was being torn apart. What frightened him even more was that his immortal body couldn't do anything. His soul was rapidly weakening, and the power in his body was rapidly declining. Damn it! This is a rare poison of the universe, the Whirling Calamity poison. It specifically targets the soul. Once one is infected by it, the entire soul will rapidly collapse, and without an antidote, one will die for sure. Dark Flame Saint also cried out because he had also been hit. In a moment of carelessness, a wound had appeared on his face. Just a single wound was enough to cause the poison to attack the heart. What? Whirling poison. Hearing this, Raindrop Sage and Goldwind Sage's faces turned deathly pale, revealing a look of despair. Sages with immortal bodies were usually very difficult to kill. Even if only one cell remained, they could quickly recover. However, this didn't mean that immortal sages were truly unkillable. There were many strange things in the universe that could destroy immortal bodies and kill immortal sages. One of them was the famous Whirling Calamity poison. This was a poison specialized in corroding and destroying the soul. Even a little bit of it would cause the soul to collapse. The entire soul would rapidly corrode and eventually collapse, resulting in death. Many immortal sages were terrified of the Whirling Calamity poison. Countless immortal sages had died to this poison over the countless years. Of course, if there was Yin in the universe, there would definitely be Yang. This poison was not without an antidote. The problem was that no one had the time to take the antidote in such an intense battle. Therefore, if one was infected by this poison during battle, one would almost certainly die. Therefore, after hearing that they were infected by the Whirling Calamity poison, Raindrop Sage and the others revealed an expression of despair. They didn't expect to encounter such a calamity when they had just emerged. Haha, fools, humans are really fools. Previously, you all thought that we wouldn't be able to kill you. After being infected by the Whirling Calamity poison, you all will die without a doubt. So what if you have an immortal body? This isn't a guarantee of immortality. Youngsters, learn well. However, I reckon that you all have no future. You will die today. Haha, the Whirling Calamity poison is a priceless treasure. We spent a lot to exchange for this treasure. You rookies will die a worthy death. The 5 elemental sages laughed heartily. After being infected by their Whirling Calamity poison, these human sages would die without a doubt. There was no hope for them. The previous sages of the foreign races were also killed by them like this. Thinking about killing these human sages, not only would they obtain a large number of treasures, but they would also obtain a large number of military merits. They couldn't contain their joy. This time they would truly become rich overnight. Fengdu, you haven't been poisoned yet. You can still be saved. Run, I'll cover for you. The Raindrop Sage turned around and shouted at Xiaoping. Fengdu, I really didn't expect that we would have to part ways today. I thought that I would be able to fight alongside you all for billions of years. Run, but remember to bring reinforcements and help us take revenge. Otherwise, I won't be able to die in peace. The Goldwind Sage's eyes revealed boundless hatred. He stared at the 5 elemental sages and gnashed his teeth. He knew that he would definitely die this time. Xiaoping hadn't been poisoned yet and could still be saved. Therefore, he planned to cover for Xiaoping so that he could escape alone. Fengdu, these are some of my treasures. They are all in my spatial ring. I only hope that after you leave, You can help me take care of my clansmen. This is also my last request. The Dark Flame Sage transmitted his divine sense in an attempt to make arrangements for his funeral. He knew that he couldn't escape this time. Only Xiaoping had a chance to live. However, he still had many things to worry about. At this moment, he could only rely on this person whom he had met by chance. Bullshit, you want to escape for revenge? Dream on. Don't even think about escaping. All of you will die here. This will be your burial ground. The 5 elemental sages were brimming with killing intent. They naturally knew that weeds would grow again if they didn't remove the roots. They absolutely wouldn't give these human sages any chance to escape. All of them had to die. Chapter 2282. Die. The 5 elemental sages all stared at Xiaoping, their killing intent surging. The other 3 human sages were all poisoned. Even if they ignored them, they would die for sure. This human was the only one who had not been poisoned yet, so he had the best chance of escaping. Therefore, if they could kill this human sage, all the humans would be wiped out. Rumbled, they attacked from all 4 directions, controlling the elemental energy to transform into terrifying cold rays of light. They covered the sky and the earth, almost covering the entire area. Clearly, they wanted to completely seal off all of Xiaoping's escape routes. The void contained endless killing intent. It was as if the surrounding hundreds of millions of kilometers were boiling, setting off an energy storm. Swoosh. At this moment, Xiaoping moved. His figure flashed and he took a step forward. Like a phantom, he easily merged into the void, instantly disappearing from the enemy's vision. Next, he appeared out of thin air tens of kilometers away. What? How can he be so fast? The 5 elemental sages were immediately shocked. They could clearly sense waves of spatial fluctuations around them. It was as if this human had comprehended the laws of space. His speed was so fast that even their divine senses could not detect it. In the blink of an eye, he had escaped from their attack range and all of their attacks landed on thin air. Kill? Xiaoping took out the Hell Spear. A terrifying power of hell surged out from the depths of his body. The surroundings were filled with the power of the underworld, and a powerful spiritual domain enveloped the area, covering tens of light years. At this moment, the 5 immortal sages felt that the environment of the universe around them had completely changed. They had fallen into a boundless hell. Countless evil spirits and demons tore at them crazily. They were surrounded on all sides. Hell-suppressing demon spear, second move, massacre. A killing intent from hell surged out from the tip of the spear. Countless characters of hell appeared on the spear, forming into lines of scriptures of hell that communicated with the origin power of hell. These characters of hell seemed to have come to life. They rapidly wriggled and appeared at the tip of the spear. They gathered together with the power of hell and fused with each other, giving birth to a terrifying massacre energy. The Hell Spear was a powerful weapon used by the prison guards. It was used to kill evil spirits, demons, and even gods and demons. One could imagine how powerful its attack was. On top of that, Xiaoping's cultivation had already reached Sempiternal Realm Advanced Stage, allowing him to wield a frightening amount of energy. This spear strike was far more fearsome than any of his previous strikes. The first to bear the brunt was Saint Pater of the Metal Elemental Tribe. He was the closest to Xiaoping, but he couldn't react at all. This was because the spear's speed was so fast that even divine sense couldn't capture it. By the time it realized it, the spear had already pierced through its body. Dong. Pater, the Metal Elemental Saint, widened his eyes. There was a look of horror, shock, unwillingness, and disbelief in the depths of his pupils. He couldn't imagine that he was hit by a human saint's spear. The power of this spear was extremely terrifying, and it contained the terrifying power of slaughter and hell. It passed through his body and spread to every part of Pater's body. It even seeped into his soul, causing it to shatter inch by inch. With a bang, the Metal Elemental Saint, Pat, didn't even have time to scream. The elemental core in his body was instantly shattered. His entire body disintegrated and was completely torn apart. And the Metal Elemental Saint Pater died just like that. Pater. Strong, the Wood Elemental Saint, shouted angrily. His eyes were wide open. He had the best relationship with Pater. They had known each other for hundreds of millions of years, and their relationship was deeper than family. Originally, he thought that he could still live until the day he withdrew from the war. However, he didn't expect that Pater would actually die now. He was stabbed to death by this human in front of him with a single spear strike. He couldn't even struggle. Bitch, how dare you kill Pater? I won't forgive you. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to make you die without a burial place. Dalian, the fire elemental saint, had a bad temper. He shouted angrily, and a wave of anger surged from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. Obviously, Patter's death had greatly stimulated him, making him feel an unprecedented anger. Kill him. We must kill him. We can't let him escape. Activate the Great Array and blast him into pieces. Valadin, the water elemental saint, and the earth elemental saint were both gnashing their teeth. They originally thought that this operation was foolproof. It was indeed smooth at the beginning. First, they used the 5 elements cage to trap this group of human saints. Then, they consumed the power of these human saints. Then they took advantage of their unpreparedness and used the whirling poison to quickly kill the 3 human saints in front of them. In the end, there was only 1 human saint left. Just one. They thought that it would be extremely easy to deal with him. It was like drinking tea or eating a meal. Who would have thought that such a change would happen? This damn bitch pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. She made Patter relax. One face-to-face, just one face-to-face, and she actually stabbed Patter, the immortal saint of the metal elemental race, to death. What kind of joke was this? How could they allow this damn human saint to live? They had to kill him and tear him into pieces to avenge Patter. Xia Ping didn't care about the anger of these elemental saints at all. They dared to ambush him, so they had to be prepared to die. Could it be that they were allowed to kill others, but others were not allowed to kill them? There was no such logic in the world. How stupid. With the hell spear in his hand, he was like the god of the underworld descending. Without giving them any chance to rest, he attacked again. Hell Demon Suppression Spear's third style, Creation. The hell spear moved like dragons and snakes. Like a reincarnation brush, it drew out many trajectories. Hell worlds appeared in the void one after another, as if they had turned into pictures of hell. However, the mountains and rivers inside these pictures of hell contained peerless murderous intent. It was as if they were connected to the source of hell, causing all the power of hell to burst out at the same time. Boom, the pictures of hell crushed down like the scriptures of hell. Every picture emitted terrifying and condensed power of hell, suppressing the void as if the god of hell had descended. From the depths of these pictures of hell, thousands of sharp blades of hell gushed out. It was as if countless prison guards were born from the void and resurrected from the chaotic era. The power of this attack was extremely terrifying. The wood elemental saint, Strong, and the immortal saint, who were standing at the front, were caught off guard. Their bodies were instantly penetrated by countless sharp blades of hell. Dong dong dong. Immediately they let out shrill screams. These sharp blades that contained the power of hell directly penetrated their souls and instantly tore them into pieces. The 2 peak sempiternal realm elemental saints died on the spot. The elemental cores in their bodies were immediately shattered into pieces. Chapter 2283. Is this a joke? Raindrop Saint rubbed his eyes as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Previously, he planned to let Xia Ping escape alone while he brought up the rear. Even if he had to risk his life, he had to let Xia Ping, who was the only one who wasn't poisoned, live. Only then would they have the chance to take revenge and not be completely annihilated. The reason why he did this was not because he had great sentiments, but because he had no other choice. If he didn't make such a rational decision, no one would be able to survive. However, he didn't expect that Xia Ping would show his prowess as soon as he shouted. Xia Ping's speed was so fast that it made one's hair stand on end. He stabbed the metal elemental saint to death first. Then, the remaining 4 elemental saints raged as if they were cornered and wanted to gang up on him. However, before he could get nervous and the 4 elemental saints flew into a rage, Fengdu became enraged and stabbed the earth elemental immortal saint and wood elemental saint to death. 3 peak immortal saints died just like that without being able to resist. To be honest, if he hadn't fought these elemental saints before, he would have thought that these elemental saints were fake. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been stabbed to death so easily. No, this isn't a joke. It's real. This isn't a dream. Goldwind Saint swallowed his saliva and was dumbfounded. Previously, he had planned to ask Xia Ping to help him take revenge. Of course, he didn't have too much hope. After all, the other party was a team of 5 elemental saints. How could it be so easy to kill and take revenge? However, he didn't expect that Fengdu Saint would take out his spear and stab the 3 elemental saints to death. That was an immortal saint, a powerful saint with an immortal body. He was a terrifying monster that could regenerate even if only 1 cell was left. He was extremely ferocious. Even if these elemental saints wanted to kill him, they didn't rely on their own strength. They relied on the strange poison of the universe, the whirling calamity poison. However, Fengdu's saint was so terrifying that he didn't even rely on any poison to stab the three immortal saints to death. He was extremely ferocious. Since when was an immortal saint so weak that he could be killed so easily? Brother Fengdu is too strong. Is he really just an immortal saint? The same species as us. 3 peak immortal realm saints of the elemental clan were killed just like that? Dark Flame Saint didn't know what to say. He was the most embarrassed one right now. Previously he had wanted to hand over all his treasures to Xia Ping, hoping that Xia Ping would take care of his descendants. After all, he still had many worries that he couldn't get rid of. But now, he hadn't even handed over the treasures on him when Xia Ping suddenly rose up and started a massacre. He stabbed 3 undying saints to death and instantly turned the entire situation around. He felt that things had changed too quickly and he couldn't react in time. Raindrop Saint, Goldwind Saint and Dark Flame Saint were just shocked, while the remaining Water Elemental Saint, Valadin and Fire Elemental Saint, Delian, were so scared that they peed their pants. Their anger vanished along with the death of the 3 peak of Immortal Realm Saints. When there were 4 of them just now, they still had a chance to compete with this human sage. They even had a great chance to kill this despicable human. But in the blink of an eye, before they could react, 3 of their own were stabbed to death. Fuck, what was there to fight? Was there anyone who bullied others like this? Could it be that this human was an ancient sage who deliberately disguised himself as an immortal saint to ambush them? To be honest, they couldn't help but doubt the power of this human sage. How could an ordinary immortal saint be so powerful? It was impossible. Run. Water Elemental Saint Valadin and Fire Elemental Saint Delian glanced at each other and saw each other's intention to retreat. At this point, they couldn't fight against these human sages anymore. If they didn't run now, they would probably follow in the footsteps of the 3 immortal saints. But before the 2 of them started running, Xia Ping attacked again. His figure flickered and disappeared into the void. Like a bolt of lightning, he immediately appeared in front of the 2 immortal saints. Hell-suppressing demon spear, 4th move, destruction. The tip of the spear turned into a vortex. For a moment, the flow of space and time seemed to change. The void distorted and a terrifying power of hell surged out from the depths of the spear. Countless characters of hell surged out and seemed to emit an aura of destruction. Terrifying killing intent from the characters of hell pierced through the void. This was a divine ability that was even more terrifying than the previous 2 moves. No! Fire Elemental Saint Delian screamed. When he saw the spear blasting toward him, the tip of the spear produced a terrifying vortex and distorted the void. He immediately felt his hair stand on end. He felt that the spear was blasting toward him and produced a terrifying devouring force. This force contained a powerful suction force that almost sucked his soul out of his body. An uncontrollable fear surged out from the depths of his heart. Dong. Fire Elemental Saint Delian couldn't react in time. The spear directly pierced through his head. A destructive energy instantly spread throughout his body, seeping into every corner of his body. With a boom, its body immediately shattered. The elemental core in its body also exploded. Even the soul in the depths of its body completely collapsed, shaken to the point where it was reduced to its atomic state. It was completely destroyed and returned to the depths of the void. Delian died. There's one left. Xia Ping turned around and looked at Valadin, the water elemental saint in the distance. Human, wait for me. My elemental race will not let you go. Valadin, the water elemental saint, shouted angrily with infinite hatred. At the same time, determination appeared in the depths of his pupils. Boom. In an instant he actually chose to self-destruct. His whole body shattered, producing a terrifying destructive force that covered millions of kilometers, destroying the world. Seeing this, the Raindrop Saint and others quickly retreated to avoid the power of this self-destruction. Xia Ping ran Dark North Body Protection Technique to withstand the aftermath of such an explosion. All the explosive power that approached his body was quickly devoured and disappeared completely. It's really decisive. I didn't expect it to escape. Xia Ping felt a strange fluctuation coming from the depths of the void. When Valadin, the water elemental saint, self-destructed, a soul immediately flew away from his body. The speed was really too fast. It was even faster than the speed of light. It blended into the void and easily escaped from this place. There was no way to catch up with it. Obviously, Valadin, the water elemental saint, was extremely decisive. He would rather self-destruct his body and give up all his treasures to escape from this place. Just one negligence allowed Valadin to escape. Chapter 2284. Xia Ping, you've earned points. At this moment, Corinne's voice was heard. Points? Xia Ping immediately connected to the universe virtual network and found that the matter of him killing the 4 peak immortal sages had been recorded. According to the system's judgment, he had earned 200 million points in one go. Killing 1 peak immortal sage was worth 50 million points, and killing 4 was worth 200 million. Seeing this number, he could not help but sigh. Back in the Holy Land of Taichu, he had to use all kinds of methods to earn points. But it was not as good as killing an immortal sage in the Mystic Zone. Indeed, war was the fastest way to earn money. Just this one time he had earned a fortune that he could not earn even if he tried his best. Whoosh! Xia Ping grabbed the spatial rings left behind by the 4 immortal sages of the elemental race and the one that had escaped. The spatial rings contained a large number of treasures from those immortal sages. He scanned the spatial rings with his divine sense and sensed that there were indeed a large number of valuable treasures in them. Not to mention the points obtained from killing the immortal saints, just the treasures from the foreign race's saints would be extremely profitable. It could be said to be a sudden windfall. He was very satisfied with his harvest this time. Brother Fengdu, congratulations. You've killed 4 peak immortal sages. I'm afraid you've earned a lot this time. At this moment, the raindrop sage flew over and was full of admiration. Brother Fengdu, you've hidden your strength too well. I didn't expect you to have already advanced to the sempiternal realm. Compared to us, you're much stronger. The Gold-Wind Sage sighed. He did not expect Xia Ping to be this powerful. Although Xia Ping was already a sage at the sempiternal realm, 2 minor levels higher than them. The problem was that the 5 elemental sages were also peak immortal sages. Yet Xia Ping killed them as easily as chopping vegetables. It was truly unbelievable. Brother Fengdu, thank you. Without you we would have been finished, the Dark Flame Sage said gratefully. Dark Flame Saint said gratefully. That was their first battle since they came out. They thought that there wouldn't be any danger, but who would have thought that they would almost die? One could imagine how dangerous the mystic zones were. It was completely beyond their imagination. It's all right. We're all humans and we're on the same team. It's nothing. However, you've been poisoned. Are you feeling any better? Xia Ping inquired about the 3 situation. Troublesome, this is very troublesome. The raindrop sage knitted his brows. Although we have temporarily suppressed the whirling calamity poison and prevented it from spreading, we will still die if we don't detoxify it. Yes, but there should be an antidote on Storm Island. When we return we can detoxify it. The problem is that this antidote is probably very expensive. We haven't even made any money yet and we're already in debt. Gold-Wind Saint revealed a bitter expression, feeling extremely sullen. Under normal circumstances, they were not allowed to receive points in advance. However, at this moment of life and death, out of humanitarianism, the human army would still save their lives first. As for the treatment fees, they would slowly repay them in the future. Without a doubt, the antidote to the whirling calamity poison was extremely valuable. They would probably suffer a huge loss this time. Dark Flame Saint was also very helpless, but compared to his death, this small loss was nothing. Why don't you let me try? Maybe I can solve this poison, Xia Ping said. He felt that although this poison was powerful, the golden crow hellfire in his body should be able to burn it. This kind of fire could purify all impurities and negative states. Really? Brother Fengdu, can you really do it? The raindrop sage and the others widened their eyes and looked at Xia Ping in pleasant surprise. If Xia Ping could detoxify the poison, they would be able to save a lot of money this time and would not have to live a life of debt. I also don't have absolute confidence. Maybe I can try. Xia Ping did not show that he was 100% confident. No problem, then let's try. The raindrop sage was very forthright. He was not worried that Xia Ping would plot against him. If he could save a lot of money, he was willing to let Xia Ping try. All right. Xia Ping did not refuse. He lightly tapped his finger on the raindrop sage's forehead. Immediately, a small cluster of golden crow hellfire in the depths of his body, as if it had a life of its own, instantly entered the raindrop sage's body. Then the infernal golden crow fire seeped into the raindrop sage's soul and easily enveloped his entire soul. The raindrop sage's body shook. He felt as if his soul was shrouded by the sun's rays. This kind of flame contained infinite vitality. This method was very dangerous. If Xia Ping had evil intentions, the raindrop sage would be completely finished. However, he had no such worries now. This wonderful flame power enveloped his soul, and the whirling poison that was eroding his soul melted like snow. Whoosh! Immediately, the whirling poison was evaporated by the flame power in a few breaths' time. It turned into wisps of black smoke that drifted out of his body. The raindrop sage immediately felt his soul become a lot more relaxed. It was as if he had been relieved of a heavy burden. Xiaoping did the same thing and removed the poison from the dark flame sage's and the gold wind sage's bodies. Brother Fengdu, you are amazing. You are really amazing. I didn't expect you to really be able to remove the whirling poison. This is really incredible. I have never heard of anyone who could remove the whirling poison without taking the antidote. It is said that even if you take the antidote, your soul will be greatly damaged. You may not recover even if you rest for millions of years. However, we don't have any hidden dangers now. It's just that our souls are a little weak. The raindrop sage, the dark flame sage, and the gold wind sage were extremely excited. They felt that the crisis on their bodies had been completely removed. There was no longer any danger to their lives. At the same time, they only felt that their bodies were a little weak, but their souls were not too seriously damaged. This made them even more surprised. Although the whirling poison in your bodies has been temporarily removed, the damage caused by the whirling poison is not small. It is not suitable for you to continue fighting for now. Go back and find a doctor to examine your bodies first. Xiaoping gave his suggestion. Brother Fengdu is right. Let's go back for now. After going through the crisis of life and death, the raindrop sage, the dark flame sage, and the gold wind sage were deeply touched. They felt that they were really lacking and needed to improve. Otherwise, such a crisis would continue to come. At the same time, they had a deeper understanding of the dangers in the mystic area. It was really dangerous at every step. Chapter 2285. Just as Xiaoping and the rest were planning to return to Stormy Island, Valadin, the immortal saint of the elemental race, appeared in a meteorite zone in the Stormy Sea region and carefully hid. Due to the characteristics of the immortal body, its body quickly returned to its original state and was no longer in a soul state. However, because it chose to self-destruct, its soul was damaged. It would probably take a long time to recover to its previous peak state. This also lowered the probability of it ascending to the realm of the near-ancient saint. At this time, Valadin was carefully flying in the Stormy Sea region. It had to be careful because this was the 10,000 race battlefield. If it accidentally encountered a foreign race saint, it couldn't defeat them with its current strength and would only die. Damn it. Damn bitch. Damned human. Damned abominable. Valadin roared, unable to restrain his anger. You actually killed 4 of my life and death brothers, and even forced me to self-detonate so that I could barely escape, causing damage to my soul. This enmity is absolutely irreconcilable. I want you dead, human, I want you dead. It hated Xiaoping to the extreme, to the point where fire and water couldn't tolerate each other. Not to mention the fact that 4 of its life and death brothers had died in Xiaoping's hands, this hateful human caused it to self-destruct and damaged its soul, causing it to comprehend the law of space and have a slimmer chance of becoming a near-ancient saint. It wanted nothing more than to skin Xiaoping and tear him into pieces. This was even more hateful than killing one's father. No one could imagine how much Valadin hated Xiaoping, this damned human. It was as if billions of years of anger had erupted at this moment. However, it was still an immortal saint that had lived for billions of years and was very shrewd. After venting for a while, it completely calmed down and revealed a crazed look in the depths of its eyes. Stupid human, I'm afraid you haven't discovered that in the space ring I left behind, there are some treasures with my soul imprint. Valadin clenched its fists and gritted its teeth. As long as these treasures aren't destroyed, they are like spiritual coordinates. No matter where they go, I can sense them. Being able to sense them means that your whereabouts have been completely exposed. This will be the cause of your death. Leaving one's soul imprint on treasures was a very normal thing. Once these treasures had a soul imprint that belonged to him, it was as if they had become part of his body. No matter how far away he was, he would be able to sense them. Although such a connection would be cut off if the distance was too far or if there was some kind of power isolating it, as long as these treasures were still in the Stormy Sea region, such a connection could not be cut off. No, I can't waste any more time. I have to find someone to take revenge. Valadin gritted his teeth. If this human discovers the secret in the spatial ring, or if they take the opportunity to return to the human base, Storm Island, and sell all the treasures, then everything will be over. We won't be able to find any trace of this human anymore. Therefore, if we want to kill these humans, we have to find helpers and kill them within these 3 days before they return to Stormy Island. In the Stormy Sea region, There were not only the forces of the human clan, but also the forces of the elemental clan, the demon clan, and other peak clans. They also had comrades and vassal clans. These were all helpers. However, that human is too powerful. If we want to kill him, we must not let the immortal saint come. Otherwise it would not be revenge but rather death. Valadin clenched his fists. Although it was unwilling to admit it, it had to admit that it was deeply afraid of that human. If it had not been for the fact that it had made a prompt decision and escaped quickly, it would have most likely died. This kind of strength was not something that an ordinary immortal saint could handle. Only a near-ancient saint, who was even stronger than an immortal saint, could kill him. Compared to this, it felt that it was really unbelievable. That damned human was clearly just a late immortal saint like it. How could he be so powerful? Since when did such a terrifying immortal saint appear among the humans? Looks like I can only look for Lord Cassio for this matter. He is already an early ancient saint and has comprehended the laws of space for 10 million years. He should be strong enough to kill that human. Valadin's eyes shone with a profound light. In fact, if it was possible, it even wanted to ask a middle ancient saint to crush the human with their strongest strength, so that the detestable human would not have a chance to escape. However, in the Stormy Sea region, the most powerful beings were late ancient saints who had comprehended the laws of space. As for experts at the level of middle ancient saints, they would not appear in a barren place like the Stormy Sea region. Therefore, it had no choice but to take a step back and choose Lord Cassio, who was an early ancient saint. Thinking of this, Valadin did not hesitate anymore. He immediately took out his communicator and contacted late ancient Saint Cassio. In the Stormy Sea region, countless islands stood in a palace on a nameless island. 7 elemental saints appeared in this palace. Among them, 6 were immortal saints. They had all reached the pinnacle of the immortal saint realm. The last one was late ancient Saint Cassio, who had comprehended the laws of space. Haha, as expected of Lord Cassio. He is too powerful. Isn't that so? Previously, there was a small team of human saints with at least 6 immortal saints. They had many treasures and were very powerful. However, after encountering Lord Cassio, they immediately fled like rats. Those foolish human saints still wanted to run? But how could they outrun Lord Cassio, who comprehended the laws of space? One move, just one move, and he pierced through countless layers of space. Those immortal saints were beaten to a state worse than death. Their souls were destroyed. Indeed, those immortal saints still wanted to self-destruct. They must be dreaming. Lord Cassio can pass through thousands of layers of space with a thought. How could they possibly self-destruct? No matter what they do, they will only struggle on their deathbed. With Lord Cassio here, we are practically invincible in the Stormy Sea region. Contribution points, treasures, they are all ours to plunder. Our lives are so comfortable. The immortal saints of the elemental race were proud of themselves. They kept sucking up to Cassio. After all, they could only be careful in the Stormy Sea region. They did not dare to be too arrogant. However, with the protection of late ancient Saint Cassio, they could practically do whatever they wanted in a barren land like the Stormy Sea region. Countless immortal saints would tremble in fear when they saw them. Their lives were no different from those of the retired emperor. Valadin is looking for me. Why is this kid looking for me? Previously, I wanted to recruit him and make him my subordinate. But now, he actually came looking for me on his own. Interesting. At this moment, Cassio noticed that his communicator was ringing. Chapter 2286. Valadin, why are you looking for me? Cassio said, if you have something to say, just say it. I still have things to do here, so I don't have much time to talk nonsense with you, understand? It spoke directly to Valadin, not wanting to beat around the bush. Lord Cassio, my brothers Paid, Delian and the others are all dead. They died in the hands of a human saint. Valadin clenched his fist. Dead. Hearing this, Cassio narrowed its eyes. It knew that Valadin had joined a 5-man team, an elite team formed by the 5 elemental races. Each of them was a peak undying saint. If these 5 joined hands, unless it was a near-ancient saint, no one would be able to do anything to them. Although they couldn't move unhindered in the Stormy Sea region like Cassio, very few could match them. But now the undying saints around Valadin had actually died. This was simply unimaginable. Could it be that some near-ancient saint of the human race had set up a trap to ambush them? However, it wasn't particularly interested in this matter. If they're dead, then they're dead. What's the big deal? Don't tell me you don't know what kind of place this is? This is the Mystic Zones, a battlefield where tens of thousands of races fight for hegemony. How can there be no deaths here? After so many years, the number of undying saints of our elemental race that have fallen is not small. You and your brothers won't make a difference. It didn't care much about this matter because it wasn't very familiar with Valadin's group. It didn't care that a few of them had died. It was as if it was listening to the news. Although everyone was from the elemental race, the problem was that the elemental race was too big. It was a peak race that could rival the human race. Even the saints didn't know how many of them there were. With such numbers, they weren't particularly close to each other. Unless there was a war between the elemental race, they would only take care of themselves. Lord Cassio, I don't wish to beat around the bush with you. Let me tell you directly. I want to take revenge and kill that human race saint. Therefore, I hope that Lord Cassio can take action. Valadin gritted his teeth and stated his goal. Valadin, are you crazy? Cassio looked at Valadin as though he was looking at a lunatic. Your brother was killed and you actually want to seek revenge from me? Do you think that I'm your father and can be ordered around by you as you please? Of course, if you have any precious treasures on you that can catch my eye, it's not impossible to ask me for help. Its eyes revealed a greedy look. Although Valadin was an immortal saint and should not be as rich as him, sometimes he might accidentally obtain some rare universal treasures as a trump card. If these treasures caught his eye, it was not impossible for him to sell them. Perhaps he could take the opportunity to make a fortune. No, I don't have any treasures on me. In order to escape, I left all my treasures on the battlefield. Now I am penniless. Valadin said solemnly. Get lost. Why are you talking about money? It turns out that you're poor. It's a waste of time talking to you. You should be glad that you're a saint of the elemental race. If it wasn't for the rule that we can't kill our own kind, you would have been killed by me dozens of times. Cassio was infuriated when he heard that. He had actually spent so much time talking to this poor fellow, and this fellow was still trying to get him to help him take revenge. He really did not know if he was crazy or if this fellow was crazy. Cassio, I did not look for you for no reason, nor was I trying to trick you. Valadin said seriously, the ones who killed my brother were a team of human saints. There were a total of 5 of them and all of them were immortal saints. The strongest among them was at sempiternal advanced stage, while the rest were only at sempiternal primary stage. Moreover, 4 of the sempiternal primary stage saints were already poisoned by our whirling calamity poison and were half dead. Right now they are just a bunch of defeated soldiers easy to kill. Bullshit, continue bullshit. If it's true, why were you the only one left? Even you could only self-detonate and escape. Cassio did not believe the other party's words at all. Everything I said is the truth. I have recorded the battle earlier. There are video clips here. You can check them and you'll know if I'm telling the truth or not. Valadin immediately sent the video over. With a beep, Cassio immediately received the other party's video message and clicked to open it. A moment later, his interest was piqued. Interesting. Based on the content of the video, it seems like that sempiternal advanced stage human saint personally made a move and killed all of you within a few breaths. To think that a mere sempiternal advanced stage human saint would possess such combat prowess. This is truly inconceivable. After watching the video, Cassio completely believed Valadin's words. After all, there was no falsehood in the video. Indeed, I also feel that this matter is inconceivable. However, there is one thing that I am certain of. He is definitely only at the sempiternal realm. He has yet to comprehend the laws of space. His cultivation realm is far below yours, Lord Cassio. Valadin said grimly, of course, I have to admit that this human is definitely a monstrous genius of the human race. His combat prowess far surpasses those of the same cultivation realm. Even with the 5 of us working together, we are still no match for him. However, Lord Cassio is different. As a near-ancient sage who has comprehended the laws of space, your combat prowess far surpasses these immortal saints. As long as Lord Cassio makes a move personally, I believe that you will be able to deal with them easily. After hearing this, Cassio did not say anything. A cunning glint flickered in his eyes. He seemed to be thinking about something. Thinking up to this point, Valadin decided to make the next move. Lord Cassio, this is our only chance. If we miss it, it will be gone forever. When they return to the human race's base, Storm Island, we will no longer be able to kill them. Furthermore, I believe that you also know that the human race has a special reward for killing a human saint. The reward might even surpass that of killing a near-ancient sage. Under normal circumstances, such human geniuses would definitely not be alone. They would be protected by experts. Under normal circumstances, it would be very difficult to kill them. In fact, they might even have many means of escape. At this point its tone changed. Of course, if you are unwilling, I can look for the help of other lords. I believe that they would be more than happy to lend a hand and obtain the credit for this. If they could kill a human genius, even peak races like the elemental race would receive a huge reward. Such a reward would surpass that of an ordinary immortal saint. It did not believe that Cassio would not be tempted. Wait. As expected, after hearing this, Cassio immediately waved his hand. He felt that he could not allow the other near-ancient sages to snatch the credit for this. He immediately said, "What you said is not unreasonable. Killing a saint of the elemental race is a heinous crime. A human saint like this should be punished by everyone. Where are those humans? I will go and kill them." He was indeed tempted. If the other party had a near-ancient sage, he would definitely not help them. However, the team of human sages only had 4 early Immortal Realm experts. A late Immortal Realm human genius was simply too weak to deal with. If he could kill those human saints, it would be like picking up a free credit. There was no reason for him not to accept such a deal. Don't worry, Lord Cassio. I have already kept a close eye on their location. I will definitely not let them escape. Valadin was instantly overjoyed. He could finally ask this near-ancient sage to help him. Chapter 2287. One day later, on an uninhabited island in the Stormy Sea region. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, ripples appeared in the void and a few figures appeared in the sky above the uninhabited island. These figures were none other than the ancient sage Cassio and his 6 sempiternal realm pinnacle subordinates. "Come out, Valadin." The ancient sage Cassio shouted into the void. Whoosh. Countless water droplets flew over and in a few breaths' time, they transformed into a human figure. This person was the water elemental sage Valadin. He hid on this island and recuperated peacefully. Now his body had recovered by more than half. Only the injuries on his soul could not be healed. Even so, he could still unleash 70% to 80% of his previous strength. "Lord Cassio, you're finally here. I've been waiting here for a long time." Seeing Cassio and the others arrive, Valadin was overjoyed. Then he looked at Cassio with a strange expression. He felt that Cassio was making a mountain out of a molehill. He was only dealing with a few human immortal sages, and 3 of them were already injured. Even if Cassio alone attacked, he could easily deal with those human sages. But now, the other had brought 6 peak of Immortal Realm subordinates of his. It looked like he had come with all his forces. Wasn't he too cautious or too cowardly? In fact, he had heard of Cassio's reputation. He was known as the most cowardly ancient sage. He was a sage who comprehended the law of space, yet he was extremely cowardly. If he did not have 100% confidence, he would definitely not attack. In fact, staying in the Stormy Sea region could no longer increase the cultivation of a sage. Yet this guy still shamelessly stayed in the Stormy Sea region. It was like a max-level player staying in the novice village to bully others. How shameless. Of course, he did not dare to say this out loud. Otherwise he would definitely suffer. Moreover, Cassio's cautiousness was also beneficial to him. At least, those human sages were doomed. They had no chance of escaping. Cut the crap. Where are those human sages? Immediately report their whereabouts. If they've already returned to Stormy Island, I won't care about this anymore. Cassio waved his hand and stared at Valadin. If those humans had returned to Stormy Island, the base camp of the human clan, or even if they were close, it would not attack them. After all, it did not want to die. It wasn't stupid enough to kill people near the human race's base camp. Don't worry, Lord Cassio. I have been tracking and monitoring their movements for the past day. Valadin immediately said, their spaceship is still too slow. According to their route, it will take them at least 4 more days to return to Stormy Island. Furthermore, they didn't discover the backup plan I left in the space ring. If we chase them now, we will definitely be able to catch them off guard. A sinister look appeared on its face. For the sake of revenge, no matter how cautious it would never be too much. That's good. Lead the way. I'll go kill that bunch of human race sages right now. Cassio was brimming with killing intent. He could not wait to rush up and kill those human race sages to obtain merits. All right. Valadin nodded and naturally obeyed. An immortal immediately took out a spaceship and let Valadin and the rest board. Then the spaceship quickly started and chased after Xiaoping's group. It wouldn't be long before they found Xiaoping's group and killed all those damned humans. Time passed in the blink of an eye. Another day had passed. At this moment, Waterdrop was getting closer and closer to Stormy Island. They would be able to return in 3 days. Waterdrop Sage and the rest were chatting. Sigh, we were really unlucky this time. I didn't expect to encounter such a powerful enemy. If it wasn't for Brother Fengdu's help, I'm afraid we would all be finished. Waterdrop Sage sighed. Isn't that so? Although we already knew that the mystic zones were extremely dangerous places, and even many immortal sages died every year, we never expected it to be this dangerous. This is only our first mission, yet we already encountered such a life-or-death situation. It seems like we underestimated the danger of the mystic zones. Goldwind Sage also felt the same. Recalling the despair and helplessness from before, he wished he had never come to this place. This was the first time he felt so close to death. Yeah, seems like us rookies are still too dangerous in the mystic zones. We don't know all kinds of combat knowledge. Dark Flame Sage said, after returning to Stormy Island, we should find a veteran squad to join. Only with some veterans looking after us can we survive in the mystic zones. Otherwise, if we don't die this time, we will definitely die next time. Originally, he didn't want to join other sage squads so soon. He felt that it would be very restrictive. However, after experiencing this life and death crisis, he immediately changed his opinion. In such a dangerous place like the mystic zones, without the help of veterans, they would easily die. Their most important task now was to accumulate combat experience in the mystic zones. Indeed, I also agree with this suggestion. If we want to survive in the mystic zones, we still need the experience of our seniors. We were too arrogant before. After living in other safe regions for too long, we forgot the feeling of danger. Little did we know that there are many ways to kill immortal sages in the mystic zones. A mere immortal body is nothing. Indeed. In short, this time I've completely woken up. It made me clearly understand how dangerous the mystic zones are. Raindrop Sage, Dark Flame Sage and Goldwind Sage sighed. They finally came to realize that a place as dangerous as the mystic zones was not a place that mere immortal sages could play around. If they were not careful, they would all die. Xiaoping didn't say anything. He also felt that it was time to disband this squad. His strength was much stronger than Raindrop Sage's. They were simply not on the same level. If they encountered a weak enemy, they wouldn't need to do anything. But if they encountered a powerful enemy, they would only be a burden. No matter what, they were not suitable to stay together. Originally, he wanted to continue accumulating some experience. But now it seemed that there was no need to be too cautious. With his current strength, he was completely confident in surviving in the mystic zones. There's an enemy? Suddenly, Xiaoping narrowed his eyes. His body spread out and covered a radius of 40 light-years. It was silent and easily integrated into every part of the void. Immediately, waves of spatial ripples appeared in the void. An elemental spaceship emerged from the void. The spaceship emitted a familiar aura. It seemed to be the water elemental sage, Valadin, who had previously escaped. Chapter 2288. Interesting. Including the water elemental saint, there are 7 peak immortal saints and 1 near ancient era saint who comprehended the law of space. Xiaoping narrowed his eyes and sat on the sofa. His consciousness blended into the void without a sound. In the mystic zones, divine sense exploration was a very important auxiliary ability. This was because it was simply impossible for ordinary detection instruments to explore the mystic zones. This was because the signal interference in this place was too serious. There were either strong interference electromagnetic waves, gravitational field disorder, or the blowing of space storms. In order to detect the surrounding environment, the only reliable ability was the cultivator's own divine sense. This kind of power could easily blend into the void just like the descent of a domain. Once any foreign object invaded the immortal saint's spiritual domain, it would be discovered immediately. Xiaoping's consciousness was too powerful. It could cover a radius of 40 light-years. Even a peak near ancient era saint's consciousness range could not compare to his. In fact, his consciousness power was extremely pure and high level. Even a near ancient saint would not be able to detect his consciousness power. Usually, Xiaoping would discover the enemy before they could even get close. And now, Valadin and the others thought that they were being secretive were discovered by him. They dared to come back after escaping. Seems like they are quite confident in dealing with me. Xiaoping thought to himself. However, this strength is indeed incredible. 7 peak immortal realm experts, 1 early ancient immortal realm expert, and 1 late immortal realm expert are more than enough to deal with 3 early immortal realm experts and 1 late immortal realm expert. If it was an ordinary immortal saint, they might have succeeded. They would not even have a chance to escape. After all, near-ancient era saints were too powerful. But this is good too. I was just worrying about not having a chance to get more points. I didn't expect these elemental saints to come to me personally. That's great. He was delighted. These foreign saints were seeking death. They came to him personally. It seemed like it saved him a lot of effort in searching for enemies. Killing 7 peak immortal saints and 1 near-ancient era saint would give him at least 450 million points. This was a huge harvest. Ordinary immortal saints could not get this much wealth even after billions of years. After all, it was too difficult to kill an immortal or a near-ancient era saint who comprehended the law of space. If he was not careful, the other party might escape. But how did they know our whereabouts? The water drop doesn't have any pattern. And I didn't sense any aura of that elemental saint. Could it have left some imprint on me? Xiaoping's eyes flashed. With a thought, his consciousness immediately penetrated into the 5 interspatial rings he had obtained previously. These were all obtained from the elemental race's sages. One of them came from the immortal saint of the water elemental race. Rumble, at that moment he immediately sensed that there seemed to be several arcane treasures within the space ring that contained the immortal saint's soul imprint. He could vaguely sense a strange spiritual connection with the outside world. So that's how it is. No wonder you know the whereabouts of the water drop. It turns out that the space ring contains the elemental saint's treasure. The treasure also contains the saint's soul imprint. With this soul imprint, you can easily sense it even if it's far away. Xiaoping came to a sudden realization. He also understood the means of the elemental race saint. It was no wonder that he had not discovered the enemy's whereabouts before. Only when the enemy was close to him would the enemy reveal some clues. This was because the range of the soul imprint far exceeded the range of the divine sense. However, the divine sense was a range while the soul imprint was only a point. It could only be communicated with the mind and barely know the specific location. He couldn't help but be vigilant. It seemed that he would have to be even more careful in the mystic zones. If the other party left any hidden traps behind, he might not even know how he died. Shio shio shio. At this moment, hundreds and thousands of beams of light suddenly shot out from the void, seemingly tearing the void apart as they bombarded the water drop. Damn it! Enemy attack. It's an enemy attack. Quick, get out of the dripping water. Damn it, who is it? Raindrop Sage, Dark Flame Sage and Gold Wind Sage, who were chatting idly, immediately felt a fatal killing intent. They made a prompt decision and immediately flew out of the raindrop. Xiaoping also followed them. With a few thuds, the beams of light became extremely terrifying. They seemed to contain the power of the space law and instantly pierced through the raindrop. It was almost torn apart. Damn it! Who dares to destroy my raindrop? Seeing the damaged water drop, the raindrop sage hurriedly put the spaceship away. He was in great pain because the repair cost of the spaceship was very high. Previously it hadn't been damaged by the 5 immortal sages, but now it was damaged. He was furious. Damn it, it's the elemental race saint. It's the water elemental race saint who escaped earlier. Goldwind Sage was very sharp. He immediately sensed the figures walking out from the void. One of them was the water elemental race saint, Valadin. This guy was actually standing side by side with the 6 peak immortal race saints. He had an arrogant and mocking expression on his face as if his plot had succeeded. Damn it, this is troublesome. The other party has found helpers and is here for revenge. Dark Flame Saint's expression turned gloomy. He knew that the other party must have something to rely on if he dared to come again. If he wasn't confident, he wouldn't dare to chase after them for revenge. He felt the terrifying killing intent in the void. It was as if there was an ambush from all sides. Revenge? It was beaten half to death by Brother Fengdu and had to self-destruct to escape. Yet it still dares to come for revenge? Is it crazy? Goldwind Sage felt that it was unbelievable. Hearing this, Valadin's expression turned ugly. Human, don't be arrogant. This time I found helpers from the elemental race. You will die for sure. The whirling calamity poison in your bodies has been cured. Do you have the antidote? But it's useless. Even if the poison is cured, you will still die. Rumble. As soon as he finished speaking, another figure walked out from the void. It was incomparably majestic. It was over 10 meters tall and looked like a god. It was surrounded by a terrifying spatial aura as if thousands of layers of space had appeared on the surface of its body. It seemed to have appeared in a different dimension. It was clearly in this universe, but its true body couldn't be captured. It's over. This is a near-ancient saint. A near-ancient saint who comprehended the spatial law. Raindrop Sage, Goldwind Sage, and Dark Flame Saint's faces turned ashen. Chapter 2289. Near Ancient Saint. These 4 words were like a mountain lying in the depths of the hearts of the Raindrop Saint, Dark Flame Saint, and Goldwind Saint, making it hard for them to breathe. Although Undying Saints and Near Ancient Saints were only one realm apart, the difference in power was like heaven and earth. They weren't even on the same level. In terms of magic power, a Near Ancient Saint could contend against 100 Undying Saints. Not to mention, Near Ancient Saints comprehended the space law and could use it to traverse thousands of layers of space with a thought. One attack could reach the enemy's main body through thousands of layers of space. No matter how many Undying Saints there were, they wouldn't be able to resist such power. After all, Undying Saints couldn't even reach the main body of a Near Ancient Saint, so how could they kill him? Therefore, it wasn't hard to imagine their despair after hearing that a Near Ancient Saint had appeared here. With such an expert around, they couldn't escape or live. It's over, it's all over now. Damn, why are we so unlucky? 5 peak Undying Saints were fine, but now a Near Ancient Saint has appeared. Even the heavens want us to die. I heard that some old people in the Stormy Sea region might not encounter a Near Ancient Saint even once in thousands of years. We've just left and already encountered one. Is there any justice in this world? With a Near Ancient Saint here, we can't beat him. We can only run. The 4 of us should scatter and escape. That's our only hope. Raindrop Saint, Dark Flame Saint, and Goldwind Saint's faces were ashen. They never thought that they would be this unlucky. Even a Near Ancient Saint had appeared. They didn't want to fight back, so they could only escape. If one of them could escape, the other would live. Xiaoping's expression was still calm as he looked at the elemental saints. Lord Cassio. Seeing Cassio appear, Valadin and the other Undying Saints lowered their heads to show respect. Human, I'm the Ice Elemental Race's Near Ancient Saint, Cassio. Cassio looked down at Xiaoping's group as if he was looking at ants. You should be honored to have the chance to die in my hands. This is your luck accumulated over countless years. You can struggle as much as you want, but it's my loss if one of you can survive. Rumble. As soon as it finished speaking, an extremely terrifying chill emanated from its body, covering a radius of hundreds of millions of kilometers. In an instant, everything within a radius of hundreds of millions of kilometers was frozen. It was as if even space itself had been frozen. This domain had turned into a world of ice, and everything was snow white. This chill contained the power of the laws of space, and even space could not escape the binding and freezing of the cold chi. Raindrop Saint, Dark Flame Saint, and Goldwind Saint immediately felt a bone-piercing cold. Even their thoughts seemed to have become sluggish and the blood in their bodies was about to freeze. Only at this moment did they feel the power of a Near Ancient Saint. This was the power of someone who had comprehended the law of space. His every move seemed to be able to mobilize the power of the law of the universe. It was impossible to resist. So this is the power of a saint from ancient times. He's too powerful. In the distance, Valadin was also amazed. Although he had previously looked down on Cassio for being as timid as a mouse, he felt that it was a disgrace to the reputation of a saint in the Near Ancient era to be so cautious. However, after sensing Cassio's power, he immediately abandoned such thoughts. This was the power of the laws that far surpassed the immortal realm. If Cassio wanted to, even he would be killed here. This was the difference between heaven and earth. Stupid humans die under the ice. Cassio's expression was ferocious. He wanted to mobilize all his power to attack the Raindrop Saint and the others. Fight him to the death. So what if he's a Near Ancient Saint? He has to pay the price if he wants to kill us. Fight. Even if we die, we have to teach him a lesson. The Raindrop Saint, Dark Flame Saint, and Goldwind Saint roared. They were not willing to die like this. Even if they died, they had to show their bravery as saints of the human race. Valadin and the others' expressions were ferocious. They followed behind Cassio, ready to support him at any time. They sealed the void, not giving the human saints a chance to escape. The battle between the two sides was on the verge of breaking out. At this moment, an extremely terrifying aura was transmitted from the void. This aura made the Raindrop Saint shudder in fear, and he couldn't help but turn around to look. Not only the Raindrop Saint and the others, even Valadin, Cassio, and the other saints looked over. They also felt a huge threat. At this moment, Xiaoping took out a pearl. This was the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers that had been upgraded to a high-grade saint artifact. Suppress. With a thought, Xiaoping threw the bead out. Immediately, the pearl rotated in the void. A huge and vast formation emerged from its body, covering a radius of hundreds of millions of kilometers. This was the map of mountains and rivers from the space of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. In an instant, the void that spanned hundreds of millions of miles underwent earth-shattering changes. It was as if the void was surging. One mountain after another rose from the ground, one river after another flowed through the void, and one tree after another and weeds grew from the depths of the void. It was as if the starry sky of the universe had turned into a real world. It was as if a world had enveloped the area, forming a powerful spatial barrier in the surroundings. No one, not even a near-ancient saint, could escape from the map of mountains and rivers. They were like turtles in a jar. High-grade saint artifact. Brother Fengdu actually has a high-grade saint artifact. The raindrop saint, the dark flame saint, and the gold wind saint could not help but widen their eyes. They did not expect Xia Ping to have such a powerful artifact. After all, it was already not bad for an ordinary immortal saint to have a low-grade saint artifact. If they came from a powerful faction or had a fortuitous encounter, they might be able to get a mid-grade saint artifact. However, it was impossible for them to get a high-grade saint artifact. The difference in value was countless times. They could clearly feel the tyrannical formation diagram coming down from the bead and suppressing the void. Such a magical treasure was at least a high-grade divine artifact, and such power could even contend with a saint that was near ancient times. Damn it, this human actually has a high-grade saint artifact. How is this possible? Why would a human saint with such a powerful background appear in such a barren place like the Stormy Sea region? The near-ancient Saint Cassio's expression was extremely ugly. He had been cautious all his life and never acted rashly. He only did things that he was confident in. He did not even deal with troublesome opponents. Only by keeping a low profile could he survive until now. However, after keeping a low profile for so long and peacefully developing to this point, he was now so unlucky that he had kicked an iron plate. What kind of joke was this? Chapter 2290. Damn it, this is a high-grade sacred artifact. It contains powerful laws and conceals space. Even a near-ancient sage would not be able to escape from this formation in a short period of time. Valadin felt a fatal sense of danger. Moreover, this formation seems to have appeared just to seal space and prevent us elemental sages from escaping. Damn it, how can this human be so arrogant to this extent? He took out a high-grade sacred artifact just to seal our escape route. Is he so confident that he can kill us? He clenched his fists tightly as if he could feel the boundless confidence of this human sage. Such confidence could not have come from nowhere, nor could it be that the human in front of him was acting silly. None of the existences that could ascend to the undying sage stage were stupid. Since the other party dared to do such a thing, it proved that he had absolute confidence. Their mission this time around was really dangerous. They might have really kicked an iron plate. This human is so arrogant. Looks like he really does have some ability. I cannot take the risk. I have to ask for help. I have to ask the nearby comrades to come and kill this human. Cassio immediately sent out a distress signal. Fuck. Valadin also sensed Cassio's distress signal. He was completely dumbfounded. He could not believe that Cassio would be so cowardly. The other party was clearly just a sempiternal advanced stage sage. All he took out was a high-grade sacred artifact. As a near-ancient sage, Cassio should not be too afraid of him. It was like an 8-year-old child wielding a sharp saber to fight against an adult. It might seem threatening, but that was all. However, this fellow actually sent out a distress signal when there was only a hint of threat. Just how thick-skinned must a near-ancient sage be to do something like this? After all, as a near-ancient sage, it was extremely embarrassing for him to be scared by a sempiternal sage to the point of asking for help from his own race and comrades. It was a great humiliation. If word got out, he would become the laughingstock of the elemental race. If it was him, he would rather die than ask for help. However, this Cassio did such a humiliating thing without hesitation. He was extremely shameless. Humph, what an idiot. Cassio could also see Valadin's disdain, but it didn't take it to heart. Being cautious was its philosophy of survival. The undying saints and geniuses of the same generation as it had all fallen in the mystic zones. Only a mediocre genius like it could survive until now by relying on its cautiousness and planning step by step. It even managed to ascend to the near-ancient saint realm. As for dignity, it was nothing compared to his own life. Only those shameless people could survive longer on the battlefield. Alright, under the suppression of the stately painting, none of you can escape. Now all of you can die. Xiaoping calmly looked at Cassio and the other saints. Terrifying killing intent emanated from his body, permeating through every corner of the void. Even space was unable to withstand such bone-piercing killing intent, as though the entire void had been frozen. You can't escape? Little human, who do you think you are? You think you can act arrogantly here just because you have a high-grade saint artifact? Simply a fool's dream. We near ancient saints are all here. How arrogant can a mere undying saint like you be? Attack, kill him and tear him into pieces. Let's see what other tricks he has up his sleeve. On the other hand, Cassio's 6 sempiternal realm pinnacle sempiternal realm sages of the elemental tribe were thoroughly enraged by Xiaoping's words. Even though the human had a saint high-tier artifact on him that could significantly boost his fighting prowess, they still had the advantage in numbers. Moreover, they had the support of a near-ancient saint, which gave them an absolute advantage. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In an instant, the 6 immortal saints of the elemental race attacked from all directions. One after another, their mental domains suppressed the void. Violent elemental energy exploded, attempting to crush Xiaoping into pieces. Not bad, you have guts. However, this is also a last-ditch struggle. Xiaoping grabbed with his hand and immediately took out a treasure he had obtained from hell, the morning staff. The moment the morning staff appeared, a bone-chilling coldness from hell permeated the boundless void. At the same time, ghostly wails and wolf howls could be heard, causing every corner of the void to tremble. It was as if there were billions of demons wailing, howling, and screaming at this moment. It was chilling. Vaguely, there seemed to be countless demons, ghosts, and devils surging out from behind him. It was as if the gates of hell had opened in the depths of the void. His body emitted a terrifying aura of the god of the underworld. Kill. Xiaoping gripped the morning staff tightly and showed no mercy. He performed the first move of the 5 subduing techniques. Dizziness. Dong. He circulated the enormous magic power in his body and communicated with the power of hell in the morning staff. Then he struck at the void. Immediately, ripples that could be seen by the naked eye surged out from the morning staff. Layers of terrifying consciousness shockwaves were transmitted from the morning staff. They were like ocean waves constantly beating the void. Layers of shockwaves overlapped and seemed to form millions of terrifying resonance. Buzz, buzz, buzz. With just one strike, the 6 sempiternal saints of the elemental race were immediately stunned. It was as if they had been struck by lightning. Their souls were hit hard. Their souls could not withstand such strange soul fluctuations. These sound waves seemed to form the patterns of the laws of sound waves, crushing over and causing the universe to shake and resonate. Then they were directly knocked unconscious. White balls appeared in their eyes and their sea of consciousness was blank. They had no idea what state they were in. It was as if they had become idiots. Bang, bang, bang. Xiaoping's figure flashed and he struck again with the morning staff. This time, he struck the heads of the 6 sempiternal saints. Immediately, their heads were smashed like watermelons. At the same time, an invisible and strange power was transmitted into the depths of their souls. Their souls were also shattered. Even the elemental cores in their bodies were shattered. Just like that, the 6 sempiternal saints of the elemental race were killed by the morning staff. They could not fight back at all. As expected of the morning staff. It was really powerful. Xiaoping was very satisfied with the endless power of the morning staff. A single strike from the morning staff was unstoppable. If one's consciousness was not strong enough, one strike could knock them unconscious. Then these sempiternal saints could not fight back at all. Beep, beep. At this time, Corinne's voice was heard. Ha, Xiaoping, 6 sempiternal saints are dead. One death is worth 50 million points. Now that you've killed 6, you've gained 300 million points. You've made a huge profit. You've become rich overnight. It excitedly sent a message to the universe virtual network. Don't worry, master. Just kill them. With the mountain river pearl suppressing the void, these sempiternal saints will definitely not be able to escape. The green ox felt that after it advanced to a high-grade sage artifact, it was a little invincible. Even the sempiternal saints of the near-ancient era could not escape the suppression of its mountain river map. Chapter 2291. Holy crap, what kind of artifact is that? How could it kill 6 peak immortal saints with one strike? Seeing the 6 peak immortal saints die, Cassio was scared to death, his face ashen. Even he couldn't kill 6 immortal saints in a blink of an eye. It wasn't hard to imagine that this bastard was not just an immortal saint. He might even be a near-ancient saint who had hidden his cultivation. Otherwise, there was no way to explain how this kid could have such powerful fighting power. I've kicked an iron plate. This time I've really kicked an iron plate. Help, I must ask for help. As long as I can hold on until my allies and comrades come, I have a chance to live. Cassio gritted his teeth, his face ferocious. He frantically sent out signals for help because he could feel the aura of death from Xia Ping. At this moment, his little life seemed frozen. Even 6 peak immortal saints were killed with one strike. With his current strength, he didn't have much hope, even if he was a near-ancient saint who had comprehended the space principle. After all, the difference was the difference. Strength was strength. It couldn't be faked. In the Stormy Sea region, there were many elemental saints and their vassal races. They were scattered in every corner of the sea, competing with other races. Once he called for help, these elemental saints and their vassal races' saints would come. As long as he could hold on until his allies arrived, he would have a chance to live. In a short time, this kind of call for help spread to every corner of the Stormy Sea region. All the elemental saints and vassal races' saints received this message. What? An immortal saint with a high-grade sacred artifact and a mysterious treasure killed 6 peak immortal saints in a few breaths? He even scared a near-ancient saint into asking for help? Many saints of the elemental race were shocked when they heard the news. My God, what kind of immortal saint is that? How can he be so terrifying? He actually forced a near-ancient saint to send out a call for help. Seems like that human immortal saint is really something. How about it? Should we go and save them? Save my ass. How can we save them? We aren't even near ancient saints. If we go there, we'll just die. That's right. With our strength, we'll just die. Maybe we'll be killed by that human saint if we get close. Indeed. Moreover, even if we, the elemental race, asked for help, didn't the human race's saint ask for help? If we rush there, it will definitely be a war between the humans and the elemental race. At that time, there will be countless casualties. If I can kill that human genius, I'm sure I'll be rewarded handsomely. Unfortunately, it's too dangerous. His strength is frighteningly strong. If I go, I'm afraid I'll be killed. How could I possibly get a reward? Cassio can only be considered unlucky, actually encountering such a monster human. An undying killing ancient, truly inconceivable. After receiving the news, many elemental sages discussed among themselves. However, they only discussed for a while and did not plan to rescue Cassio. After all, that human race monster could kill 6 undying sages in a few breaths of time and scare a near-ancient sage into asking for help. Such strength was enough to scare most undying sages. If there was a chance to rescue them, they wouldn't mind doing it, but the danger was too great. Going there would be suicide, and they had the right to refuse such a suicide mission. Moreover, this was the Mystic Zone, a place where tens of thousands of races fought for hegemony. How could there be no deaths? Cassio could only blame his bad luck for encountering such a monster of the human race. Even so, a few near-ancient sages from the elemental race rushed over. Haha, that coward Cassio actually asked for help. That brat always stays in a safe place like the Stormy Sea region to bully the undying sages. Never thought he would ask for help one day. Being forced to this extent, how interesting. Regardless of whether Cassio is a coward or not, he is still a near-ancient sage of our elemental race, an important combat power. He can't die in the hands of the human race like this. We must save him. That's right. Moreover, killing an ancient sage as an undying, this strength is definitely a famous monster of the human race. If we can kill him now, we'll definitely be able to heavily injure a portion of the human race's strength and obtain a special reward from the race. Let's speed up, or else I'm afraid Cassio won't be able to hold on. Don't be anxious. No matter how weak Cassio is, he is still a near-ancient sage that comprehended the spatial laws. With his strength, he should be able to hold on for a few days without dying. There's still time. Indeed. Resisting and killing are two different concepts. Moreover, Cassio has many trump cards, so he shouldn't die so easily. Some near-ancient sages of the elemental race received the news and quickly rushed over. However, they were very far from the place where Cassio was asking for help. Even if they wanted to rush over, it would take a very long time. Now, they could only pray that Cassio could hold on for a little longer, at least until they arrived. Master. At this time, the green ox said, "We must kill that near-ancient sage of the elemental race as soon as possible. If I'm not wrong, this guy should have already sent out a distress signal. The other party is a near-ancient sage of the elemental race, and the elemental race is also one of the peak races. They have a huge influence in the Stormy Sea region. If such a distress signal is sent out, it will definitely attract some powerful enemies. Maybe even ancient sages will appear. That's right, we can't delay any longer. If we wait for the elemental race's reinforcements to arrive, then it will be troublesome. Corinne nodded. He also rarely agreed with the Green Ox's opinion. He felt that this war had to be settled quickly and absolutely couldn't give the elemental race time to wait for reinforcements. Don't worry, it won't take 3 moves to kill it. Xia Ping's eyes revealed a trace of cold light, his killing intent boiling. Whoosh. In an instant, his figure flashed like lightning using Kunpeng's steps. His entire body easily blended into the void, silently approaching the near-ancient sage Cassio. What's going on? Why is his speed so fast? Cassio was scared to death. This speed had already surpassed the immortal sage's speed. Even the speed of a near-ancient sage shuttling through space was no more than this. He didn't dare to talk nonsense. He operated the magic power in his body and mobilized the space law. In a breath's time, his body shuttled through thousands of layers of space, trying to avoid Xia Ping's attack. Wanna run? Too late. Xia Ping held the morning staff in his hand and once again struck down. Soul subduing 5 techniques. Second technique, delay. With a bang, grayish-white light rays blossomed from the morning staff. They pierced through the void, shuttled through countless layers of space, and silently bombarded Cassio's body. With just one attack, Cassio's entire body seemed to slow down. The surrounding power of laws instantly became chaotic, as if the surrounding void had turned into a swamp vortex, tearing his body apart. Chapter 2292. Oh no, what kind of power is this? Why have my movements slowed down? Cassio was dumbfounded. He could not understand what was happening. It was as if the grayish-white light had interfered with its body, and even its understanding of the spatial laws had undergone a huge change, as if it had been affected by the law of deceleration. The space that had merged with his body seemed to have turned into a swamp. His body had fallen into the swamp and he could not penetrate through the void quickly. It's over. It's over. At this moment, Cassio's heart was filled with endless despair. He could feel the terrifying killing intent coming from the depths of the void. It seemed to have enveloped his entire body. It was obvious that the human race sage had already locked onto his soul. There was nowhere for him to hide. Damn it. You want to kill me, Cassio? Dream on. Even if I die, I will drag someone down with me. Cassio's eyes were filled with madness after being forced into a corner. Even a rabbit would bite when it was cornered, let alone a near-ancient sage like him. He was just being cautious. He was not as timid as a mouse. If he needed to put his life on the line, he would put his life on the line. He would not lose to anyone in terms of courage. Absolute zero, icebound world. Cassio shouted angrily. He operated the spatial laws in his body. A terrifying chill immediately spread out from his body and formed a huge domain world. Boom! Immediately, the area within a radius of 1,000,000 miles was enveloped by this white chill. The entire void was frozen. It seemed as if the starry sky was distorted by this power. Any living creature that entered this icebound domain would be frozen. Not only his magic power, but his body would also be unable to withstand such a terrifying chill. Even his soul would be frozen. So powerful. The Raindrop Sage, the Dark Flame Sage, and the Goldwind Sage could also feel how powerful this icebound domain was. If they were to get close to it, they would probably be frozen into ice sculptures and sealed for eternity. Putting your life on the line? Foolish. This is just a last-ditch struggle. Die. Xia Ping grabbed with his hand and took out the Hell Spear. A tyrannical power of hell surged out from the depths of the spear. Countless characters of hell twisted in the void, seemingly forming pieces of supreme scriptures. Vaguely, a gate of hell appeared behind him. It seemed as if it was connected to the world of hell. Hell Demon suppressing spear. Fourth move, slaughter. As soon as the spear shot out, a black light erupted from the depths of the spear. This black light seemed to be condensed from the laws of hell. It exuded the aura of death, destruction, nirvana, chaos, and so on. The moment it appeared, it seemed to pierce through the void and tear it apart. It silently blasted a huge black hole in the void, and an abyss appeared. Shio. This beam of black light flashed and traversed countless layers of space. It was indestructible. It was as if this beam of black light was the only thing left in the entire universe. It was as if at this moment, all the laws of the universe had stopped operating. Everything had stopped. The Raindrop Sage and the others widened their eyes. They could no longer see anything else. All they saw was a black light flashing across the void and arriving beside Cassio. "No, no, no!" Cassio shrieked. He could only watch on helplessly because the speed of the black light was simply too fast, so fast that his body couldn't even react in time. In the next second, its forehead was pierced through, and its entire body was split into two halves by this force. It split open from the middle and all the parts of its body were sent flying, breaking into pieces. At the same time, a wave of destructive power erupted from its body. Its elemental core and its soul were completely destroyed at this moment. Near ancient sage Cassio was dead. Weak, too weak. Xia Ping shook his head. He felt that killing a near ancient sage was nothing special. When he was only at the sempiternal intermediate stage, he had killed a near ancient sage. Now that he had advanced to the sempiternal advanced stage, his magic power had more than doubled. Even with his own magic power, he could suppress an ordinary near ancient sage. At the same time, he had a powerful magic treasure like the Hell Spear. With a swing of the spear, it could completely ignore space and was indestructible. The near ancient sage could not withstand it at all. Facing Xia Ping, whose magic power, soul power and magic treasures were all above that of an ordinary near ancient sage, how could Cassio, a near ancient sage, block it? He could not block it at all. Therefore, with a swing of the spear he was stabbed to death. Consider yourself lucky to be able to die under the Hell Spear. Xia Ping looked at the dead Cassio indifferently. Then he grabbed with his hand and kept Cassio's corpse. As a near ancient sage, its corpse was also of great value and should not be wasted. He also took away the space ring and various treasures that it left behind after its death. He naturally would not let go of the corpses of the 6 immortal sages that he had killed and the treasures they left behind. Someone is still alive? Xia Ping turned around and immediately saw the water elemental sage, Valadin, who was still alive. At this moment, Valadin looked at Xia Ping in despair and anger. He knew that he could not escape this time, and he would not be as lucky as last time. After all, even a near ancient sage Cassio had died in the hands of this human. How could he escape? Moreover, the surrounding void had been completely sealed by a high-grade sacred artifact. He could not escape either. Human, you've gone too far. I, Valadin, will fight it out with you. It's a great reward to be able to drag a human genius like you down with me. Remember, this is all because of you. Valadin shouted angrily. In his despair, he wanted to self-destruct and perish together with Xia Ping. However, before he could do anything, another black beam of light blasted over, piercing through the sky and passing through countless layers of space. Boom! The Hell Spear flew over and instantly pierced through Valadin's head, nailing him to death in the void of the universe. This. Valadin's eyes widened and his body trembled. He did not expect this human to attack so quickly. Before he could completely attack, the spear had already blasted over and nailed him to death in mid-air. He could feel the terrifying aura of destruction coming from the depths of this dark golden spear. With a boom, this dark golden spear shook slightly, and his soul was instantly destroyed and turned into powder. At this moment, the water elemental sage Valadin was also dead. Still trying to self-destruct? Do you think I didn't guard against this move of yours? I'll shatter your true spirit with one move. Let's see how you can self-destruct then. Xia Ping shook his head, waved his hand and kept Valadin's corpse. As for the treasures on Valadin's body, he did not have any. After self-destructing for the first time, he became a pauper and all his treasures were left behind. Chapter 2293. Haha, Xia Ping, 450 million points. After killing these elemental sages, you have obtained 450 million points. How many good items can you exchange for with these points in the Sacred Palace? Corinne was very excited. Including the 4 peak immortal sages he had killed, Xia Ping had obtained 650 million points. Ordinary sages might not be able to obtain such points even after spending billions of years in the mystic zones. After all, not everyone had the power to kill sages of the same level. I'm rich, I'm really rich. The mystic zones are really a good place to get rich. Azure Ox was also very excited. He was already calculating what treasures he could exchange for to strengthen the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. If he could upgrade the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers to a peerless sage artifact, his power would increase 10-fold or even 100-fold. It would be like ascending to the heavens in a single bound. My God, they're dead. They're all dead. Not a single one was spared. Raindrop Sage looked at Xia Ping in disbelief. He had thought that he would definitely die after encountering so many powerful enemies. He would not even have the chance to escape. However, he did not expect that not only were they not dead, but the elemental sages had also been killed. It's fine if he could kill immortal sages, but now he can even kill near-ancient sages. This kind of strength is simply unimaginable. Goldwind Sage was also dumbfounded. Being able to kill sages of the same level proved that they had extremely powerful battle prowess and were invincible among the same level. The problem was that even near-ancient sages could be killed. This was beyond his imagination. This kind of strength is truly invincible. Dark Flame Sage was also shocked. It was true that Xia Ping might have used treasures to kill near-ancient sages, but the problem was that without sufficient strength, treasures would not be able to kill the enemy. It was like a 3-year-old holding a sword that could cut through iron as if it was mud. How could it kill a strong adult man? It could only be said that Xia Ping's strength far surpassed the immortal sages. He had reached an unimaginable realm. What you want to say can wait. Let's run first. It won't be long before the enemy's reinforcements arrive. With a whoosh, Xia Ping arrived beside Raindrop Sage and the others. You're right. We have to run quickly. Hearing this, the Raindrop Sage immediately came to a realization. He knew that the elemental race's sages must have rescued the reinforcements. If they were delayed, the elemental race's sages might catch up to them. He immediately took out the water drop and had Dark Flame Saint, Goldwind Saint, and Xia Ping board the ship. The ship turned into a beam of light and left the scene at top speed. Meanwhile, on the other side, the sages of the elemental tribe who were planning to head over to support Cassio, received the news of their deaths one after another. What? Cassio and the others are dead. None of them are alive. When some of the elemental sages received the news, they were extremely shocked. One by one they stopped their rescue. Damn it! What happened? Even if Cassio was a fake and barely reached the level of a near-ancient saint, he was still a near-ancient saint who had comprehended the law of space. He was not that easy to kill. How long has it been since he died? Some of the elemental saints found it hard to believe. They originally thought that with Cassio's strength, he could at least hold on for a few days. They could take advantage of this time to rush to the battlefield and rescue Cassio. However, they didn't expect that they would receive the news of Cassio's death not long after they set off. This was too fast. It didn't make sense at all. 7 peak immortal sages and 1 near-ancient realm sage were killed in just 1 hour. What's the background of that human sage Fengdu? Is he really just a late immortal realm sage? Impossible. Maybe the information was wrong. Cassio's enemy might not only be a late immortal sage. There might be a near-ancient sage hiding in the dark. Otherwise, how could he kill Cassio so quickly? The problem is that Cassio isn't a fool. If the opponent really has a near-ancient sage, he definitely wouldn't dare to fight. He would definitely run away without saying a word. Don't doubt his sensitivity to danger. Could it be that the human sage is really that terrifying? An immortal killing a near-ancient sage? Unbelievable. The elemental sages discussed among themselves. They were completely shocked by this news. There hadn't been a near-ancient sage dying in the Stormy Sea region for many years. Now one had actually fallen. Moreover, it was killed by an immortal sage. This kind of news was unimaginable even in the entire history of the universe. This kind of achievement reminds me of a person who caused a commotion recently. That's the human race's new immortal sage, Xia Ping. An elemental sage's eyes flashed with a cold light. Impossible. An elemental sage shook his head. That kid is indeed powerful. He ascended to immortal in just a few decades. The problem is that he's just an early immortal. How could he have the strength to kill a near-ancient sage? No matter how monstrous he is, there has to be a limit. How is it impossible? He ascended to immortal in such a short time. Who can deny that he doesn't have the strength to kill a near-ancient sage? That sage retorted. Indeed, we can't deny it, but this is too inconceivable. That's right. A little guy who just entered immortal can kill a near-ancient sage. I won't believe this. That's right. Plus, the human race is huge. It's not strange for an immortal to occasionally appear. It's impossible that there are only human geniuses like Xia Ping. That's not unreasonable. Besides, I heard that apart from Xia Ping, there's also a human wanted criminal called Wu Wudi. He's also an extremely terrifying person. He even has Gaia by his side as his helper and pet. Damn, why are the human race so monstrous? There are actually 3 such monsters. Xia Ping, Wu Wudi, and now there's Fengdu. There's no end to it. Regardless of whether Fengdu is the human race's Xia Ping or not, he's an extremely dangerous human monster. We must take him seriously. We can't let another Dark North Sage appear. That's right. If the human race gets another invincible sage, how can we, the elemental race, have a foothold in the future? We can't let this happen. Report to the race's elder. Immediately report this Fengdu's name and list him as a priority target to be killed. Many of the elemental sages reached a consensus. Regardless of whether this Fengdu sage was the legendary human Xia Ping or not, this person was an extremely dangerous human monster. He must be eliminated as soon as possible. They quickly returned. After all, Cassio and the others were dead. Even if they went to that place, it would be useless. If they continued to go there stupidly, they might fall into the human race's trap and be wiped out. Chapter 2294. It wasn't just the elemental race that knew about it. It also spread to every corner of the Storm Sea area and other races. After all, the fall of a near-ancient saint was too shocking. Fengdu, who is Fengdu? Killing near-ancient as an undying, this is unheard of. Too scary. Some saints were shocked after hearing the news and couldn't accept it for a long time. Ordinary immortals killing immortals was rare and needed to use all kinds of treasures. But now, an undying killing near-ancient was even more shocking. It was enough to shock all the races. Some people say that Fengdu might be the new saint of the human race, the rare monster Xia Ping. Someone spread this news. Impossible. This Xia Ping just reached undying. He's probably in seclusion in the Taichu sacred land. How could he come to the mystic zones now? Some people felt that the possibility of this was not high. If it was another 1,000 years, perhaps Xia Ping would have such strength. However, Xia Ping was still too young. Killing near-ancient at the early stage of undying, was he trying to scare people to death? There had to be a limit to how monstrous he was. Indeed, many people suspect this too. So, some people think that this Fengdu might be some unknown monster of the human race. Maybe he's been staying in another universe and only came to the mystic zones now. There were also people who made another guess. This was a common thing. Some monstrous undying saints usually stayed in other universes because they felt they didn't have enough mana, or they didn't want to leave their family, or they missed their homeland. But it didn't mean these saints weren't strong enough. Once they did, it would be earth-shattering. Such people appeared occasionally in the long history of the universe. Not only did they appear in the human race, but they also appeared in the demon race, the elemental race, the dragon race, and so on. Damn, why are there so many geniuses in the human race? I can't accept this. Can't help it. Among the peak races, humans occupy the largest territory in the universe and have the most numbers. Their training system is also very complete. Genius? So what if he's a genius? A dead genius is just a corpse. Now this guy is dead for sure. He's already on the blacklist of all races. Once he's encountered, he'll be killed immediately. If you want to make a name for yourself in the mystic zone, you have to pay the price. Every sage who becomes famous in the mystic zones will be attacked and killed countless times. The human race's Dark North sage was the same. If he can survive, he will become a legend. If he can't, he will become cosmic dust. I hope they can all live a little longer. If I can kill this Fengdu, I will become the next generation's legend. Many of the saints discussed among themselves. They all wanted to kill this Fengdu. Another's hero was their enemy. This was an unchanging principle in history. Similar information quickly spread to the various races, and the name Fengdu was known by countless saints. At the same time, many human sages also received the news on Storm Island, the base of the human clan. Interesting. Where did this Fengdu come from? To be able to kill a near-ancient sage despite being only at the sempiternal realm, how did he do it? It's really unbelievable. I've seen that Cassio before. He's a famous cowardly near-ancient sage of the elemental race. He specializes in bullying people in the novice village. He never goes to those dangerous regions and only stays in this place. That's why he's always been safe and living well. No one can do anything to him. Who would have thought that he would kick a metal plate and get killed by our human clan sages? How can one not get his shoes wet if he often walks by the river? There will definitely be a time when this guy is unlucky. Good kill. I was bullied by that shameless Cassio previously. Just because he's a near-ancient sage, he purposely caused trouble for us undying sages. Many human sages were curious about this matter. Some of the undying sages were gnashing their teeth at Cassio. They had suffered at his hands countless times, and some of their comrades were even killed by him. Now that Cassio was finally killed by their human clan sages, it was simply a revenge for countless people. Previously, that Fengdu didn't even send out a distress signal. That's why we didn't receive any news that they were being chased. It's obvious how confident Fengdu is. Clearly, he believed that he could kill a near-ancient sage from the start. A near-ancient sage squinted his eyes and voiced out his conjecture. Awesome, he's indeed awesome. This means that Fengdu's confidence is off the charts. He's actually so confident that he didn't even call for help. Does he really believe that he can kill a near-ancient sage? Don't tell me he's done something like this before? Hearing these words, many human sages thought of this and became even more interested. Right, since that punk killed a near-ancient sage, his battle must have been recorded by the Universe Virtual Network. Can we view the recording and see how he did it? Some sages suggested. To gain points, one had to open the Universe Virtual Network's recording function. If one didn't open it, then no one would be able to know whether or not one killed a strong enemy. However, the moment it was opened, the entire process of the battle would be recorded. No, I don't have enough authority to view it. A Middle Ancient sage also wanted to watch. However, very quickly his face turned black. He realized that his authority wasn't high enough to view the contents of the battle. What? Even Middle Ancient sages don't have the authority to view it. Just how high is this authority? The group of sages were stunned. After becoming a Middle Ancient sage, one would be considered one of the upper echelons of the human race. Such a person's authority was extremely high, and there weren't many things that could be restricted. Now they just wanted to view the battle of an undying saint, yet they didn't have the authority to do so. To view the contents, one has to be at least at the level of the human ancestor. That Middle Ancient sage was depressed. However, after seeing the authority level requirement, he was stunned. What? One has to be at the level of the human ancestor to view it. The requirement is too ridiculous. If that's the case, there aren't many in the entire human race that can view it. Is that Fengdu's background that amazing? Only the human ancestor can view his information. Killing a near-ancient sage as an undying, such talent is rare. Naturally he would be protected. If the information of such a human genius were to be leaked, and the foreign races found out, what would we do? That's right. Such information has to be kept secret. Who knows how many absolute geniuses of our human race have been assassinated by the foreign races? Without them, our human race would have even more high-level sages. Many of the human sages discussed. Although they were regretful that they couldn't view the contents of Fengdu's battle, they understood the rules of the human race and didn't say anything. Chapter 2295. Holy Land of Taichu. The news that Xia Ping had killed a near-ancient saint also came. Xiaoyao Ancestral Master, Vacant Ancestral Master, and Dark North Saint who had been paying close attention to Xia Ping all knew about it. Unbelievable. How did he do it? Even though he was a late-stage immortal saint, it was extremely difficult for him to kill a near-ancient saint. Defeating and killing are two different things. Dark North Saint was astonished when he heard the news. He knew the gap between an immortal saint and a near-ancient saint. Back then, he was a famous human genius in the universe. However, back then he could only defeat near-ancient saints at a higher level. It was impossible for him to kill them. Even though Xia Ping had many treasures, many of them required strength. Without the corresponding strength, he couldn't unleash the true power of the treasures. Ah, Dark North, he's indeed your disciple. He's indeed extraordinary. An immortal saint killed a near-ancient saint. This hasn't happened in many years. It seems like if everything goes well, your disciple will be on the same level as us. Xiaoyao Ancestral Master and Vacant Ancestral Master laughed. As human ancestral masters, they had the authority to watch Xia Ping's battle and knew every detail. Because of them, the video wasn't disseminated, it was controlled by someone. Ancestral Master, it's just a hope. Whether he can succeed or not depends on himself. Dark North Saint smiled faintly, but he didn't say it confidently. After all, he had to pay a great price to reach the invincible saint realm. In the universe, there had been countless monstrous geniuses from different races. However, there were only a few who could stand at the peak of the universe. Not only did it require talent, but it also required a certain degree of luck. Forget it. Let's ignore this little guy for now. Our plan to go to the Dark Forbidden Zone is ready. It's time to start, Xiaoyao Ancestral Master said in a deep voice, his expression turning serious. As an invincible saint, he only paid a little attention to a junior like Xia Ping since he had more important things to attend to. The Dark Forbidden Zone is an extremely dangerous place. If we're not careful, even an invincible saint will die. It's an absolute forbidden zone for life, and we must make sure nothing goes wrong this time. Ancestor Kong Kong said solemnly. If they, the great ancestors of the human clan, were to die, it would bring a great disaster to the human clan. The safety of the human clan depended on them and they could not afford to lose. Under normal circumstances, they wouldn't take risks unless it was absolutely necessary. Don't worry, we're fully prepared this time. We're only going to take a stroll around the outskirts and we don't plan on going deeper. If we can find some treasures, we'll definitely be able to greatly increase the strength of our human race. Even if we face the calamity of the universe in the future, we will be able to deal with it easily, Dark North Saint said solemnly. In fact, many of the human race's most precious treasures were obtained from the Forbidden Darkness region, like the Universe Virtual Network or the Demon Subduing Tower, etc. These were all treasures that the human ancestors paid with their lives to obtain from the Darkness Zone. This also laid the foundations for the human race to grow stronger. However, that place was also extremely dangerous. Even if an invincible saint were to enter, his life would be in danger and he could die at any time. Therefore, every time they moved, they were extremely careful. Stormy Sea region on the Water Drop. All of them. After escaping from the battlefield, the Water Drop Saint, Dark Flame Saint and Gold Wind Saint were silent for a long time. Eventually, they couldn't help but speak, breaking the silence in the ship. Alright, after staying silent for so long, you guys must be bored. What do you want to ask? Xiaoping smiled. What do you want to ask? We have a whole bunch of questions, as many as the stars in the sky. Yeah, just your strength alone is a bunch of questions. Undying, killing near ancient, this is simply unheard of. This news will definitely shake the entire Stormy Sea region. To be honest, I'm also from the Taichu sacred land. I've seen countless monsters, but I've never seen someone like you. Compared to you, you're the true disciple of the sacred land. We're just country bumpkins. The Water Drop Saint, Dark Flame Saint and Gold Wind Saint looked at Xiaoping as if they were looking at a monster. Because even among the undying saints, this guy was definitely a monster. Don't underestimate yourself. To be honest, you guys still have some ability. It's only because you met me that you guys seem so insignificant. Actually, you guys can be more confident. Xiaoping said carelessly. Scram. Bullshit. I said you're fat, but you're really panting. The Water Drop Saint, Dark Flame Saint and Gold Wind Saint spat. They had been modest, but this guy really took advantage of them. His skin was really thick. Alright, let's stop joking. After this battle, I'm afraid I'll have to move alone and leave this team. Xiaoping said in a deep voice. Don't worry, Fengdu. Even if you don't say it, we know about it. The Water Drop Saint nodded. With your strength, staying in our team, no, even staying in the Stormy Sea region would be underestimating you. You shouldn't be able to dominate this small Stormy Sea region. After witnessing Xiaoping's true strength, he knew that this team could not accommodate this great god. Yeah, Fengdu, you don't have to worry about anything. All good things must come to an end. Plus, you've killed a near-ancient saint of the elemental race, so you've become a public target. Even if you stay, we won't be of much help if you encounter an enemy. We'll only be a burden. Dark Flame Saint said, plus, we've decided to join other teams after returning to Stormy Island. With the strength of rookies like us, it's too dangerous in the Stormy Sea region. Even without this matter, they had already planned to disband after returning to Stormy Island. But now, Xiaoping was just mentioning this matter in advance. In that case, I won't say much. I'll leave in a while. Xiaoping nodded. He wasn't that pretentious. You'll leave in a while? So soon? You're not going back to Stormy Island? Goldwind Saint was surprised. Not for the time being. Anyway, there's nothing to do. Plus, I'm afraid that a bunch of people will come up to ask me questions. It'll be troublesome. Xiaoping waved his hand. Yes, brother Fengdu. Take care. The Water Drop Saint, Dark Flame Saint and Gold Wind Saint nodded. They understood what Xiaoping was thinking. Alright, goodbye then. We'll meet again if fate allows it. Xiaoping immediately bid farewell to the Water Drop Saint and the others, left the water drop and stood in the void. Then he took out his spaceship Myriad Stars and flew towards the depths of the void. Chapter 2296. Inside the multi-star, it was sailing in the stormy sea. Beep beep. At this time the system's voice sounded, "Congratulations, host. This time you have attracted a lot of hatred from the elementals. You have received a total of 50 hatred crystals. I hope you can continue to work hard." 50 hatred crystals? Hearing this, Xiaoping raised his eyebrows. This was a good harvest. Coupled with what he had obtained before, he now had a total of 1,050 hatred crystals on him, which was a huge fortune. However, this time he not only obtained hatred crystals but also a large number of points. At the same time, he also obtained a large number of treasures left behind by Cassio and the other elemental sages. Good treasures. Xia Ping happily counted the treasures he had obtained this time. First were the pills such as the longevity pill. There were hundreds of thousands of them, which was quite astonishing. Secondly, there were some refining materials, which were all excavated by these elemental sages from the mystic area. If sold, they would be worth at least tens of millions of points. Then there were some magic treasures, including 13 low-grade sacred artifacts, 1 middle-grade sacred artifact, but no high-grade sacred artifact. They were not rich to that extent. It would be good enough for one of them to have a middle-grade sacred artifact. Unfortunately, Xia Ping was too powerful and did not give them a chance to use their sacred artifacts. He was killed in a few breaths. What is this? Then Xia Ping discovered that these space rings stored a large number of mysterious stones. They were fist-sized and filled with rich origin energy, almost condensing into substance. This is a source stone. Seeing what Xia Ping took out, Corinne immediately exclaimed. What is a source stone? Xia Ping asked. This is a precious energy stone condensed from the origin energy of the universe. It is very suitable for sages to condense magic power and cultivate. Absorbing a source stone can increase the cultivation efficiency of a sage by dozens of times. The effect is similar to the longevity pill. Corinne explained. It is said that source stones are a specialty of the mystic area and one of the factors that attract countless sages to enter the mystic area. If you can get a large number of source stones, you can speed up the cultivation efficiency of a sage. The Green Ox also explained. At the same time, it is said that the depths of the source stones also contain a little bit of the power of the laws of the universe. If you get a large number of source stones, you can also take the opportunity to improve your perception of the laws of the universe. That's why every sage is extremely eager to obtain large amounts of origin stones. They are extremely beneficial to their cultivation and are also the hard currency of the mystic zones. That's right. It's precisely because origin stones are so precious that if an origin stone vein is discovered on every island, or even on every continent, a world-shaking battle will erupt, resulting in countless casualties. Corinne also said some of the information he knew. However, they don't seem to have many origin stones on them. Xia Ping took a closer look and realized that there were not many dawn stones left in the space rings left behind by the sages. There were only about 200 dawn stones in total. This is normal. Corinne said as if it was a matter of course. Every source stone is a consumable. Once a sage obtains a source stone, he will immediately swallow and refine it, taking it as his own and transforming it into his own strength. Basically, every sage won't have many source stones left on them, unless they're especially rich. Unfortunately, in a barren place like the Stormy Sea region, there shouldn't be many rich sages like that. It indicated that it was normal for there to be a scarcity of source stones. After all, once a saint obtained such a treasure, he would immediately swallow and refine it. He would not leave it for the next day. Forget it, this is just a small matter. Xia Ping nodded, indicating that he understood. He then ignored it and said, now the important thing is to find the next destination. The Stormy Sea region is still too small, and there aren't many treasures. Do you know where in the mystic area there are a lot of treasures that can enhance cultivation? He looked at Corinne. Drip. At this time, Corinne waved his big hand, and suddenly a 3D virtual projection appeared in midair, forming a starry sky map, which seemed to cover the lounge. This starry sky map was densely packed with light spots, all of which were scattered in various corners of the Stormy Sea region, including the human race's novice base, Storm Island, as well as the bases of the demon race, elemental race, and other races. Even some extremely dangerous places were marked. This is the mystic area map obtained from the All Saints Temple. Corinne said in a deep voice, we are in the Stormy Sea region where the strongest are estimated to be near ancient sages. The resources in this place are very barren, and those with a little ambition will not stay in this place. After leaving the Stormy Sea region, we can go to the slightly richer Thunder Sea region. It is said that thunder will fall in this sea region at all times, and terrible natural disasters will occur there. If an ordinary immortal sage is struck, he will lose half his life. Speaking until here, he paused and continued, in the center of the Thunder Sea region, there is a continent called the Thunder Continent. This continent is rich in resources and there are many rare treasures. In order to compete for these treasures, the human race, elemental race, demon race, and other peak races have built their own cities on this continent, and are constantly fighting with each other. In that place, immortal sages are just ordinary soldiers, near-ancient sages are the captains, and middle-ancient sages are the real main force. It can be said that this place is very dangerous, and the number of immortal sages and near-ancient sages who have fallen there is innumerable. Only by reaching the middle-ancient realm can you be considered to have a little ability to protect your life. He indicated that the Thunder Sea region was a somewhat famous place in the Mystic area. All the major races covet the resources of the Thunder Sea region, and have deployed a large number of troops in this place. One can imagine how fierce the competition between the major races is in this place. Every 100 years or even 1,000 years, there will be a race war and some sages will die and turn into bones. Therefore, the sages who dare to enter the Thunder Sea region have great confidence in themselves. Moreover, this place is rich in resources, and has enough ability to provide near-ancient sages for cultivation. Countless sages who desire to advance further will come to this place. Not bad, this place is not bad. Hearing this, Xia Ping stroked his chin, very satisfied. If we fight in this place, we will definitely be able to obtain a lot of points as well as precious treasures. Okay, let's go to the Thunder Sea region. Calculate how long it will take us to reach the Thunder Sea region. The Thunder Sea region is quite far from the Stormy Sea region. Even with the current myriad stars, I am afraid it will take 3 months of flight time. Corinne calculated the time needed for the voyage. 3 months it is. In any case, I don't have much right now, but I have a lot of time. Xia Ping nodded and gave an order to Corinne. Whoosh. The myriad stars slightly shook and immediately set off at full speed toward the Thunder Sea region. Loading the next chapter. Chapter 2297. At this moment, the stars were flying toward the Thunderbolt territory, while Xia Ping had returned to the mountain River Pearl. All of a sudden, Xia Ping realized that the world tree in the depths of his sea of consciousness was shaking. At the same time, it had a desire to devour, which was transmitted to him. What? It wants to devour the corpses of sages? Sensing this thought, he realized that the world tree was very interested in devouring the corpses of the elemental sages, which seemed to be very beneficial to its growth. Originally, the world tree could only increase its power by devouring the corpses of abyssal demons, devils, and other dark creatures. However, after a period of evolution, the corpses of any sages were extremely attractive to it. Clearly, its ability to devour energy had further evolved. After all, the energy in each sage's body was like a sacred herb that contained a huge amount of vitality. Although dark creatures like the abyssal demons were better for the world tree and could be considered its main food, the corpses of other sages were also a good dessert. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Thinking of this, he did not hesitate and immediately took out the corpses of the elemental sages and placed them on the ground. Suddenly the world tree shook, and thousands of roots extended from the depths of the void. In an instant, the corpses were riddled with holes and countless roots penetrated every corner of the corpses. Whoosh, the corpses of the sages shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few breaths, the energy of the corpses of the sages was completely devoured by the world tree. In particular, not only was the energy in Cassio's body completely devoured, but even the fragments of the law of space in the depths of his body were also completely devoured. This? Xia Ping narrowed his eyes. He saw that after the world tree devoured the corpse of the ancient Saint Cassio, it seemed to have obtained endless benefits. Its trunk, branches, roots, and other parts had all grown tremendously, growing to a height of several thousand meters. At the same time, the massive spatial energy and fragments of the law of space were integrated into every corner of the world tree as well as every cell. Vaguely, the world tree emitted a massive spatial aura as if every leaf contained rich spatial energy. It had an aura of its own. Rumble, after an unknown amount of time, the energy devoured from Cassio's body and the fragments of the law of space rapidly converged, and a transparent flower actually grew on the leaves of the world tree. The transparent flower quickly grew until it became a transparent fruit. It looked crystal clear and gave off a dense spatial aura. It was as if there was a world within the fruit. Spatial fruit. Seeing this fruit, Xia Ping's body couldn't help but tremble and his eyes shined. He immediately obtained information about this fruit from the world tree. This was the mystical fruit that the world tree had formed after devouring the ancient Saint Cassio, the fruit of space. It was a strange fruit formed by devouring the law of space fragments within Cassio's body, spatial energy, and other things. It contained a huge amount of spatial energy and the law of space. If an ordinary person were to consume this fruit, they would have a high chance of comprehending the law of space. It would even transform their body, causing their body to slowly transform into a space body. Incredible. The World Tree is truly incredible. Xia Ping was completely shocked by the ability of the World Tree. The World Tree was indeed the sacred tree of heaven and earth. It was a great life that stood above all other plants. It was truly amazing. If an ordinary saint wanted to comprehend the law of space, they would need a long period of accumulation and a spark of inspiration. Only then would they have a slight chance. However, the World Tree plundered the law of space from the ancient saint's body and took all the spatial energy within the saint's body for its own. It completely refined it and condensed it into the fruit of space. In this way, there was no need to deliberately comprehend the law of space. As long as one consumed this fruit of space, they would naturally comprehend the various laws of the universe. It could only be said that it was a demonic tree among demonic trees. It was a terrifying life that grew by devouring and plundering the universe's resources, as well as the information of the various laws of the universe. If the World Tree continued to grow, would it be able to kill and refine the ancient saints and condense them into strange fruits like the fruit of time? It could be said that if the World Tree wanted to grow, it would have to kill countless people. Blood would flow like rivers, and the corpses of countless saints would be used to forge its growth. I wonder what it would feel like to eat this fruit? Thinking of this, Xia Ping plucked the fruit of space and immediately swallowed this transparent, crystal-like fruit. Rumble, the fruit of space melted as soon as it entered his mouth and rapidly turned into spatial liquid, fusing into Xia Ping's limbs, bones, and even every cell. At the same time, a large number of fragments of the law of space and a large amount of spatial energy surged in his body. At this moment, he also comprehended many mysteries of the law of space. The power of space even fused into the cells in Xia Ping's body, causing the cells in his body to crystallize and become spatialized. Every cell seemed to have turned into an independent small spatial world. The magic power in his body was also increasing crazily. Indistinctly, his spiritual domain also seemed to have the tendency to crystallize and become spatialized. Once he completely comprehended the law of space, his spiritual domain would completely transform into a spatial domain. His strength would increase tenfold or more than 100-fold. Too little. The information of the law of space and the spatial energy contained in this fruit of space are still too little. After a while, Xia Ping completely refined the energy of this fruit of space. He felt that his strength and understanding of the law of space had greatly improved. Unfortunately, this fruit of space was condensed from the fragments of the law of space in Cassio's body. Cassio was only an early near-ancient sage, and his accumulation was not deep enough. The fragments of the law of space in his body were simply too little. Moreover, his accumulation was too deep, more than 10,000 times that of ordinary immortal sages. This made it countless times more difficult for him to comprehend the law of space. At the same time, he also needed to devour a large amount of spatial energy and comprehend more information of the law of space. If there were no shortcuts, it would be normal for him to be stuck at the immortal realm for hundreds of millions of years. Looks like this trip to the lightning territory is a must. If I can kill more near-ancient sages and condense more fruit of space, my cultivation will improve by leaps and bounds, and I will quickly comprehend the law of space and condense a spatial avatar. Xia Ping clenched his fists. He felt that he had another reason to go to the lightning territory. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.